see, I literally took that link. You could have used Social Blade. You could have used all these different websites. You can literally use a YouTube channel, which is weird. Don't do that. I'm positive a copyright strike if you do that. But as you can see, I use this. I plugged it in, and it live count or like of what's happening, and that website itself is live, and you can literally see every. Ugh. Oh gosh. Hmm. No. Damn. God damn it. God damn it. God fucking damn it. God damn it. Oh, I'm sorry. Why is this thing working? Oh.
Okay, so good lab, boy. Nigga, I don't want to be fucking live right now.
Helping their child live.
Hope starts here. Hope's going to start with St. Jude.
Go online or call this number right now with your $19 monthly gift. Use your credit or debit card and you'll get this St. Jude t-shirt that you can proudly wear to show your support.
You are in the absolute best place in the world.
We have so much more work to do. And like my father said from the very beginning, I can't do it alone. Please help me. So go online or call with your $19 monthly gift right now. Because hope starts right here.
Allergies make me miserable. It's hard to breathe and sleeping's awful. My doctor told me about Navage for allergy relief without drugs.
Navage relieves congestion fast by pulling saline in one nostril and out the other. Navage flushes out allergens, pollen, mucus, and germs.
I can breathe again and I sleep better. Navage is like nature's decongestant.
Find out for yourself and stop suffering. Try Navage for 90 days with zero risk when you buy online at Navage.com.
Remember imagination? Where anything could happen. Where some made raisins taste like sour flavored strawberries, and fruit snacks can simply be whole fruit. Some made sour raisin snacks. Imagine that.
All Floridians really need to monitor Hurricane Dorian and make the necessary preparations.
We've got a major hurricane out there that's strong and getting stronger, and you can see how much space it takes up on the globe here from the International Space Station. Yeah, that's looking down on Earth and Dorian. Moving toward the northwest, and in its path, we do have the Bahamas, the northwestern Bahamas anyway, and the southeastern coast of the United States. So let's show you the latest. As of the 2 o'clock advisory, we're going to be getting another one later. And 3 is the category that we have right now. 115 mile per hour winds in Dorian. It is a storm. pressure has dropped to 970 millibars. It's moving toward the northwest at about 10 miles per hour, and it's still hundreds of miles east of the northwestern Bahamas, but that is the first land in its path. The Turks and Caicos well to the south. The southern Bahamas don't look like they're going to get more than maybe a glancing blow with some waves and some breezes, maybe some rain showers, but it's the northwestern Bahamas that we're really looking at for the possibility of that storm making its way into it with all of its fury. And the stronger the storm, very often we see the more visible the eye, and that's what we're beginning to see now on Dorian. The wind speed probabilities are increasing all the time. Pretty much certain that we're going to see tropical storm force winds in the Bahamas and on the coast of Florida. The hurricane wind speed probabilities are getting higher as well, but we're probably still going to see them grow even more here in the coming days. Right now it looks like the probabilities of hurricane force winds out near the coastline probably in that 60, 70, 80 percentile. Hurricane watches are up for the northwestern Bahamas. All of the islands here in that watch in anticipation of seeing it. And there's the forecast cone right now. And I say right now because it could change and has changed and could continue to see changes here in the coming days. Once we get into the southeastern coast of the United States, it really gets fuzzy where that eye could make its landfall, if indeed it does, here in Florida. So a lot of things to watch, Julie, as we approach this Labor Day holiday weekend.
Not an easy one, Nick, that's for sure, but we're on top of it. We're going to check back in now with meteorologist Felicia Combs. She is live for us in Orlando.
And we've been seeing a few more people out here on the streets of downtown Orlando. So I would say overall it is quiet. So I'm betting a lot of people are kind of laying a little bit lower for this holiday weekend and getting their storm preps going. But seeing a few more cars starting to pick up as we're here in downtown Orlando, seeing people kind of making their way through. I would say, given that this is a Friday afternoon, it's a holiday weekend, I would expect to see more people out. But I really do think this is a consequence of people preparing. And another thing that people are preparing, trying to get the gas that they need, which is becoming more difficult. We actually have video of the Florida Highway Patrol. They are escorting some of those fuel tankers in the Miami area, where in the Miami area, already around 50% of stations out of gas. And during his press conference earlier, Governor DeSantis was saying, these lines that are already lining up at the gas stations are making it even harder for the fuel tankers to get in there and replenish the fuel supplies. So while we do have plenty of fuel, we really just need it to be replenished, and that's why they're getting that Florida Highway Patrol escort as well. A lot of people really taking this very seriously as well. We spoke with one woman earlier who lives here in Central Florida. She lives in the Orlando area, and she was saying that, she's no stranger to tropical systems or dealing with hurricanes, and one thing that she was worried about in particular.
The only thing that concerns me is making sure that I'm not within that 100-mile range of the hurricane force winds. That's my main concern. As long as I'm not in that, I'm good.
Now, one thing I do want to point out, we tell you run from the water, hide from the wind. There's not just one thing in a storm that could hurt you. So while the winds up above 100 miles per hour are a scary thing, you also have to think of flooding, especially if you're in coastal areas, but also inland flooding. Now, the latest model runs, of course, shifting a bit, but they will continue to wiggle as we head through the next few days. So make sure you have those plans, and don't just think about the winds. Think about the possibility of freshwater flooding and all the different dangers that are going to come along with a strong storm like Dorian. Guys?
All right, Felicia, thank you so much for that. Of course, some good advice there. And we do have a couple days to work out those details. So now is the time to go ahead and prepare. If you live in Florida right now, prepare as if this storm will be impacting you. Right now, we have a 115-mile-per-hour Category 3 hurricane out there in the Atlantic moving on toward Florida.
This is a payday bar. It has a truckload of peanuts and a caramel core that gets the job done. It's 10.5 centimeters of awesome, unless you get the king size, which is 14.7 centimeters of, oh yeah. Payday. Get to it.
Attention, this is a legal alert for anyone who has used Roundup Weed Killer and been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. If you used Roundup Weed Killer and have been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to significant compensation. A multi-million-dollar verdict was recently awarded to a man whose non-Hodgkin's lymphoma was linked to Roundup Weed Killer. If you used Roundup Weed Killer and were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Call now.
If something happened to you, what would happen to them? Their home, their education, their future. You need life insurance, and chances are SelectQuote can help you get it for less than $1 a day.
SelectQuote found Jacob 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife Wendy, a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
Our secret? At SelectQuote, we aggressively comparison shop up to 10 highly rated companies to find you the company with the best rates.
We found Gary, 35, a $1 million policy for only $22 a month.
Why pay more? Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford.
Call 1-800-304-3321 or go to SelectQuote.com now and get the insurance your family needs.
At a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Most homeowners draw a blank when asked what their home projects should cost. That's why at Home Advisor, you can see what others paid for similar jobs in your area. Start your next home project knowing what you should pay. Go to HomeAdvisor.com or download the free app.
Do you use catheters? Are you using the catheter that's really best for you?
Oh, yeah.
For years, I've been using one kind of catheter, and I never knew that there were other really great catheters available until Liberator sent me samples to try. If I had not tried the samples from Liberator, I might never have found the perfect catheter for me. Liberator Medical sent me a catheter that was easier for me to use right out of the package. Now that I've found the best catheter for me, it's made my life much easier. My catheters were completely paid for, not a dime out of my pocket.
There are so many innovative catheters. Get the
Now they're
best
playing
catheter
name
for
catheter
you.
commercial.
Call Liberator Medical. Get your free catheter sample pack. Call 1-800-885-1918. That's 1-800-885-1918.
Hi, Phil Swift here for the Flex Seal family of products. Now, all the strength of original Flex Seal is available in portable, powerful minis. From the toughest jobs to a simple repair, Flex Minis are always there. Now with Flex Minis, you can grab and go.
What?
Plus,
Have a good
they're
idea where she's
adorable,
at.
whether it's
Yeah.
Flex Tape, Flex Glue, or Flex Seal. Imagine everything you could do with Flex Minis.
I was supposed to go down to South Florida to play golf for 2 days, so ruined my weekend, PGA National. So that kind of was like a little bummer. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, this one I think is going to be a hard one. So I'm going to put the plywood up and be safe.
I think a lot of weekends are going to be ruined, unfortunately, by Dorian. Just whose will be ruined the most, it's hard to say at this point. But what we do know is we have a very strong hurricane even now. It's a major hurricane, a Category 3 with 115-mile-per-hour winds in the center, and it is expected to strengthen even more. The pressure's fallen to 970 millibars. It's still moving toward the northwest at 10 miles per hour over open water for a long time before it finally encounters the northwestern Bahamas as we get into probably the Saturday night, Sunday time frame, and really on Monday too, as things begin to slow down.
I found one of your
Hurricane
golf
watches
balls
up
under it.
for the area in anticipation of hurricane force winds in the northwestern Bahamas. There's the visible satellite picture, and with every frame, we get a better view of the eye, it seems. Not only the eye, but also the
How many days
thunderstorms
things take
erupting
for it
in
to
the
trace
eye wall around it. Now, this is encountering a little bit of shear, that turning of wind with height that tends to
never thought
rip
we could
apart
stack them
hurricanes
in
if
skateboards
it gets too
you
much
just
shear.
mentioned
But
that
it's
now
moving
you
into an
mentioned that, I
area
remember it.
where there isn't any shear. And so that's one of the factors that could cause it to increase in its the speed of the winds within the center. There's lots of moisture in place to fuel Dorian with those big billowing storms, and the water temperatures are in the mid and upper 80s. So all of these factors working together do mean a strengthening storm, we think, perhaps up to Category 4 strength before it makes its way into the Bahamas and then eventually toward Florida. Here's the forecast. Monday morning, making its way out of the Bahamas with 140-mile-per-hour winds, then moving toward the Florida coastline. But where it goes from there, a lot of scenarios here, and we'll keep fine-tuning these and bring them to you as we know more.
We got two of them.
There's still a lot of what ifs, unfortunately. I think the
That's
takeaway
the
is
stupid
go ahead and
nigger-rigged software
prepare.
had
If
to
you
get.
live in Florida right
That's what
now, you
people are
have a couple
seeing.
of days. Get
That's the
ready
thing
for
I
whatever Mother
Yeah.
Nature may bring. And millions of people, well, you're probably out there doing that right now. We do know that it is a Category
That's
3
why some
expected to
people have two
intensify
monitors
into a
on
Category
their computer
4
so they can have
storm,
one
perhaps
right
by
there
the time
and
it makes
that thing
landfall
on a different
along the
thing.
Florida coast. NBC's Jay Gray live in Cocoa Beach
Done.
now. And Jay, this is kind of one of those moments where the anxiety starts to set in, people start to get worried, gas starts to run out. Are you familiar with the gas situation there at all?
Yeah, we've already seen some stations here with bags over the pumps. They don't have gas, and that's a situation that the governor says is going to get worse, though we have also seen today trucks loading up and beginning to disperse some of that fuel across the state, much needed at this point. So what are things like right now, a few days out? Take a look. It is literally a day at the beach here in Cocoa. You've got families out enjoying the surf and the sun. Not as many as you'd see normally on a Friday leading into a long holiday weekend, but still people out and getting one last beach day in if they can. Kind of split. You've got visitors here, some who are cutting their trip short and heading back home after today. You've got some residents, many who've said, look, we've done all we can. We've packed up. We've got our supplies. We're waiting to see where this thing goes. And so what else are we going to do? We're going to come out to the beach. This is why we live here. Officials are looking at these calm conditions and saying, look, if you don't have what you need to be ready, do it now while things are safe. Don't wait until the last minute here. And if you think you're going to leave, regardless of any evacuation notices, do that sooner rather than later. You don't want the highways to get packed up. You don't want to run into that fuel situation. You want to get on the road and get to higher ground. Julie, it sounds like a lot of people here are really looking at this very closely, doing what they need to do. But it's that tension you talk about, not knowing exactly where it's going to hit, that is frustrating a lot of people. They don't know if they're going to be able to ride this out, if they're going to have to move to a shelter or maybe get in their car and take off and get out of the strike zone here. And we really, Julie, won't know that for a day or so, right?
I know, and unfortunately, probably tough on tourism there. The hotel's not really knowing what to tell people or what to do either. A big ticket weekend, of course, with it being the holiday, Jay. So a lot at stake there in Florida, but it's just going to take some more time before we can fine-tune those details and the models work it out. All right, while Dorian is expected to possibly hit Florida's east coast, the storm could have a much wider impact on other areas. If it takes that northeastern turn after landfall, it could bring damaging wind and rain to places like Tybee Island, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina, or if it perhaps continues into the Gulf of Mexico, it could re-intensify and impact New Orleans or the Florida Panhandle. So there are a lot of scenarios out there right now, though. The National Hurricane Center's forecast takes it west, here across the Bahamas on Monday, and then eventually into Florida by Monday into Tuesday, perhaps somewhere in and around West Palm Beach, or maybe a little bit farther to the north. Again, though, a lot to work out because we have this to deal with, this upper level pattern here, this high pressure here over the Atlantic. That's going to help steer it to the west. But we also have upper level winds to the north. If this weakens, those upper level winds pick up, that could actually draw it farther north, and it could maybe skirt the coast. That's one scenario of many. And again, it's going to take a little longer to figure that out.
Having the right coverage is important, especially when it comes to retirement. Do you know Medicare doesn't cover all your healthcare expenses in retirement? With Physicians Mutual, you won't be caught in the cold without the protection you need.
At Physicians Mutual, we know that planning for retirement can feel scary.
Heard you're retiring soon. My husband just retired. Figuring out how to stay covered was a real doozy.
Hey, look, Leonard's premiums are showing.
He doesn't even have a Medigap.
What did I say, Jamal?
Anyways, we found Physicians Mutual. They made it really easy.
I'll give them a call.
Retire with confidence. We'll listen and find you the coverage you need.
Physicians Mutual, Physicians Mutual.
Norwegian's Free at Sea lets you choose up to 5 free offers, like free unlimited open bar, free shore excursions, friends and family sail free, and more. Your next vacay awaits from just $1.99. Norwegian Cruise Line. Feel free. If you want to do a little fishing, you don't buy a yacht. And if you want to take a bath, you just fill up the tub, not a swimming pool. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why pay for more than you need? For as low as $20 a month, you can get talk, text, and data from Consumer Cellular with no contract and connections on the nation's largest wireless networks. It's easy to switch. Activation is free. And if you like, you can even keep your phone and number. You'll also receive award-winning customer support. Consumer Cellular has received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service 7 times in a row. And you get a simple, easy-to-understand bill with no surprises. Plus, they've been an approved AARP provider for over 10 years, so members get exclusive discounts. Start saving with Consumer Cellular. You can get talk, text, and data for as low as $20 a month. Switch today and get your first month of service free. Call 1-800-487-0357, go online, or find us at Target.
As a real estate agent, I've learned it's excess moisture that causes musty odors. Pro tip, use Damp Rid.
New Damp Rid drop-in tabs attract and trap excess moisture out of the air, eliminating musty odors.
Works every time.
Get rid of dampness.
Damp Rid.
That must be me right there.
There you are, Mom. That does kind of look like our family.
What are you wearing?
Ancestry has over 400,000 yearbooks from all across the country. Start searching for your friends and family. Free at Ancestry.com.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
We got one of those new purple mattresses, and it is amazing. You have to try it.
Oh, this doesn't feel like memory foam. No, this feels amazing.
Right?
What is it?
Actually, it's called Purple, and it's a completely unique comfort technology, meticulously designed to cradle and support the human body.
Cool.
This Labor Day, call 888-848-0104 to get free sheets and 2 pillows with mattress purchase.
Stream your news just like everything else you love with Local Now. It's completely free and ready to go when and where you are. Local Now. Find it in your favorite app store.
Standby bobble in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit your fast 3, open up Liana and Postel.
So there it is, about 450 to 500 miles out. Now the center will likely be somewhere inside of this cone where the impact's spreading farther and farther away.
The bottom line is strengthening hurricane, very serious threat, a lot of bad scenarios for the outcome, one good one yet, which we hope for.
So one of the things I'm looking at is the reconnaissance data coming in real time here, giving us hour by hour, even minute by minute assessment on the strength and movement of Dorian, which we need to give out to everybody to know where it's going and what it's going to be when it makes landfall.
Wow. Use the breaking now advisory just in, and then Dorian poses significant risk for Florida.
30 away, Tev and crew.
Got 5 crews out tomorrow already. If this plays out like it is, and it doesn't take that good scenario, That'll be one of the longest marathons that we've had for storm coverage.
And that's a look at how we're getting ready behind the scenes at the Weather Channel. We're in this with you for the long haul as you get your homes ready and change your travel plans. We'll do our best to keep you informed and get you the most up-to-date information on the Weather Channel, always helping you make those decisions. Right now, I think the message is do your preparations now, if you live in Florida especially. Speaking of Florida, let's get to Orlando right now, where meteorologist Felicia Combs is and giving us the latest there. Felicia.
Thanks a lot, Julia. And you know what? I really do think people here in the Orlando area are taking that advice seriously. You know, we just got the latest word in the Orlando International Airport is going to cease commercial flights starting Monday at 2 a.m. So when we're really expecting things to begin deteriorating significantly in the Central Florida area based on the current forecast. Also, the latest word from Walt Disney World, of course, that's in the Orlando area. They are going to continue normal operations for now. They're closely monitoring the forecast and the path of the storm, and they are going to, for now, continue as normal. But of course, like everyone else in the state, closely watching this forecast. We've had some rain here in downtown Orlando, but overall, I'd say the most thing to point out is the streets are pretty empty. To say that it's a Friday afternoon on a holiday weekend, it's pretty quiet. So, Julia, I understand we just got the latest advisory in, and it's something I'm sure everyone is waiting for.
Absolutely. The 5 o'clock advisory is now in. Not a lot of change here. We are now up to 115 mile per hour storm. It's still a category 3. The overall direction it has not changed a ton either. West-northwest at 9. Nick, still well off to the east of the Bahamas.
We might be beginning to see that westward turn. You know, we've been expecting it to turn basically from the northwest to a more westerly direction, and that might be starting now. The last advisory had it just at northwest, but now it's west-northwest. But the speed, as you mentioned, really hasn't changed all that much, about 9 miles per hour. And the center, of course, has changed. 420 miles east of the northwestern Bahamas is where it is. And it's well over warm water, and strengthening, as you mentioned, is expected here. So we will continue to follow this. Another change that we have, too, is we're watching the northwestern Bahamas. We had hurricane watches. Now those have turned into warnings. And so now warnings out for hurricane-force winds there in the northwestern Bahamas. There's the tight circulation.
Very healthy.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And there's the forecast. This is a brand new cone now, but I'm just looking at it here for the first time, and really, Julie, not seeing too many changes here, except for the fact that it looks like the winds are probably going to be stronger by Sunday evening. I think earlier we had 130 mile per hour winds, and now that's up to 140 mile per hour winds. Those continuing all the way through the Bahamas is going to be horrible news here for
Yes.
the northern Bahamas.
And into Florida as well. Still remaining at 140 mile per hour storm. So still a major hurricane right now. As Nick mentioned, we have a hurricane warning. That is a change since the last advisory. This would be for the northern portion of the Bahamas, including Freeport. Also a hurricane watch for the southern end there of the Bahamas. So we are looking at a warning, meaning that, within 48 hours, hurricane conditions are what we need to watch for here now in terms of the wind intensity. And of course, we're going to be dealing with storm surge, flooding rain as well, and a very powerful storm. Really, I think that there's not a lot in its way, Nick, unfortunately. It's going to enter an environment that is really conducive to intensification. So we're looking at perhaps Category 4 storm coming into play.
The warm water, the lack of shear, all of those things that the National Hurricane Center is taking into account with this forecast strengthening of 140 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane moving into the Bahamas and maintaining its strength. Really, the islands, even a direct hit on the islands here is not going to mean much lessening, if any, of the strength, just because the islands are small and low. But there it is right now in a very discernible eye, well to the north of the Turks and Caicos, well over open water, moving into that environment where we're going to continue to see strengthening, but it's already strong. Category 3, 115 mile per hour winds.
And after it moves over the Bahamas, it's going to encounter even more favorable conditions. So again, a very powerful storm. Weather Underground is next with more.
So there's your depression. You just want 5 o'clock to get here because depression is multiple symptoms that can hold you back. Ugh, time for a change. And your doctor tells you about Chintellix, a prescription medicine for adults with depression. And there's this overall relief. Sweet. And Chintellix had no significant impact on weight in clinical trials.
Tell your doctor right away if you have worsening depression, unusual changes in mood, behavior, or thoughts of suicide. Antidepressants can increase these in children, teens, and young adults. Do not take with MAOIs. Tell your doctor about your medications, including migraine, psychiatric, and depression medications, to avoid a potentially life-threatening condition. Increased risk of bleeding and bruising may occur, especially if taken with NSAID pain relievers, aspirin, or blood thinners. Manic episodes or vision problems may occur in some people, may cause low sodium levels. Common side effects include nausea, constipation, and vomiting.
This. Just this.
Ask your doctor about changing to Trintellix.
Now get 50% off all Domino's pizzas when you order online. 50% off sausage pizzas, handmade pan pizzas, even barbecue banana pepper pizzas. If you're into that, this week only, get 50% off the menu price of 34 million pizza combinations at Domino's.com.
Take the floor somewhere unexpected. Everything you need is at your fingertips and at the Home Depot. On-trend styles with innovations to make it pet-proof, make it life-proof, make it waterproof, make it beautiful. And the Home Depot has everything you need to make it yours. Today is the day for doing it, with even lower prices right now on vinyl plank, laminate, and tile, only from the Home Depot.
The first survivor of Alzheimer's disease is out there. And the Alzheimer's Association is going to make it happen. But we won't get there without you. Join the fight with the Alzheimer's Association.
The world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate, available only on the next generation GMC Sierra. Step up to GMC and get over $10,000 total value on this next generation 2019 Sierra Crew Cab SLT. Or get 20% below MSRP on these 2019 Double Cab and SLE Crew Cab models with a traditional tailgate.
The Joseph A. Bank Labor Day sale. Save up to 60% off everything. All suits on sale starting at $199. Dress and sport shirts for $29. Plus an extra 50% off clearance. The Labor Day sale, only at Joseph A. Bank.
If you haven't tried Taco Bell's Breakfast Crunch Wrap, filled with crispy bacon, scrambled eggs, and an entire hash brown, then consider this your wake-up call. Wake up to the Breakfast Crunch Wrap at Taco Bell. Order ahead and have it waiting.
Coming up tonight on Weather Underground, Hurricane Dorian, now a major hurricane in the Atlantic, expected to get stronger. Its incredible power zeroing in on the Bahamas. The dangerous threats Dorian poses as it approaches the southeast. The danger increasing from Florida to the Carolinas. The time to prepare is now for what could be a marathon storm. Tonight, team coverage from Florida. And hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knapp will examine the suspense still surrounding Dorian as forecast models struggle to figure out where it will go. Plus, he's going to break down how Dorian resembles past hurricanes like Matthew, Francis, and even Katrina. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Weather Underground this evening. I'm meteorologist Mike Bettis, and just in, we've got the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. This is in, and it basically maintains strength. Still 115 miles per hour here, Dr. Knapp. What, if anything, changes from this point going forward?
I think more intensification is likely. There's nothing in the environment that could significantly hinder Dorian's continued strengthening. What will probably mostly determine its future strength over the next couple of days will be internal structural changes. But it's got plenty of warm water, and the wind shear in the atmosphere appears weak enough that we could have a major hurricane all the way through the northwestern Bahamas and to the Florida coastline. So maximum sustained winds 115 miles an hour. We're going to have multiple aircraft in the system tonight, both NOAA and Air Force planes going in. We'll give you those data when they become available. Now, it's starting to turn, okay? We've had that northwestward motion for the last couple days, but it is now turning west-northwest, and the forward speed is slowing down. So it's in the process of making that turn as we've been expecting. Pressure down to 970 millibars. That will probably keep going down. Okay, let's take a look at the updates to watches and warnings. As of the 5 p.m. advisory, hurricane warnings have been issued for all of the northwestern Bahamas except for Andros Island here, which is under a hurricane watch. But the warning includes Nassau there on New Providence and Freeport in Grand Bahama. So all these areas under a hurricane warning, expecting hurricane conditions somewhere in those areas within the next 36 hours. That's issued by the government of the Bahamas. And of course, they coordinate with Hurricane Center to disseminate that in the Hurricane Center's advisory. So here's the new track and intensity forecast. Generally speaking, no big changes. We'll detail what the models have been doing, but the models are going to go back and forth and have lots of different solutions from one run to the next. If you hang your hat on any one individual model, you can easily be very misled because the next run could be very different. Hurricane Center is staying as consistent as they can given the available guidance. The consistent message is continued westward motion into the weekend with continued intensification. Could it peak out higher than this? Could it go to Category 5? It certainly could. Could there be ups and downs along the way here? Yes. But for the next 3 days, a general westward motion, increasingly slow. Look how those points get closer and closer together. And then the really hard part of the forecast and the most concerning part of the forecast for Florida is the slower motion still on Monday into Tuesday with some kind of general slow turn to the north, but there could be a lot of stalling, meandering, looping in there, and then eventually, maybe by the middle of next week, it's starting to get going toward the north. Possibly, could it cross Florida into the Gulf? Yes. Possibly, could it make a turn just at the last minute before Florida and the center doesn't come ashore in Florida? That's also possible, but there are a lot of possibilities of it making landfall in Florida. Let's look at the timing here. The Bahamas and the Northwest Bahamas are under a warning now because say morning is when we expect the arrival of winds of tropical storm force, so now we're within 36 hours of that. For Florida, it's Sunday night into Monday morning. So we could have hurricane watches going up later tonight or into tomorrow morning. Here it is on the satellite view. You can see how it's starting to make that turn, and the eye has become much more apparent. So this will start to be a scarier and scarier sight, Mike, as this really starts to look like the beast of a major hurricane we've been anticipating.
We've got a long way to go, too. It's going to be days and days that we're going to be watching this one still. Dr. Nav, thank you. Let's bring you the latest on what we know right now about Hurricane Dorian. President Trump approving Florida's request for an emergency declaration ahead of the storm. Florida Power and Light has secured 13,000 employees to be ready for potential power outages after Dorian hits. Atlanta Motor Speedway opening up its camping facilities for Dorian evacuees. So if you are maybe headed to the Atlanta metro area, it's a place that you could go. If you've got a camper or something like that, you can make your way to the campground there and have a safe place to go there. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of questions when it comes to Dorian, and the things in the atmosphere, Dr. Nav, that are steering it, that are pushing it along, it's not clear-cut.
No, it's not, and it's all about the ridging to the north. How strong is it when, and when could there be a break in the ridge to allow it to go? Now, when we look at what's going on this evening, got a very dominant high-pressure ridge over the western Atlantic, and it extends over to the southeastern United States. Now, watch what happens as we go over the next couple of days. Go into Sunday, okay, we still have ridging to the north, but maybe off the southeast coast of the U.S. it's not quite as strong as before, so that's why there's slowing in the forward motion. So this is the GFS model through Sunday. But look how slow it is from Sunday to Monday. The northwestern Bahamas could be dealing with hurricane conditions for more than a day with that slow motion.
It seems like that high has pushed it, but this high is blocking it from going any farther west.
Exactly right. And then you have weak ridging to the north, and that is allowing it for a slow motion. But eventually, when does this ridge get weak enough to allow there to be a path to the north? But none of that appears that it's going to happen quickly. So this is the GFS model next Tuesday. It's there in the east coast of central Florida, and then slowly moving northward into Thursday through a break in the ridge. Now that's just one model run. Let's look at the European model run. Okay, very similar through Sunday. That's the high agreement part of the forecast. Through Monday, barely moves. Through Tuesday, barely moves. But then this particular model run stays just offshore of the east coast of Florida, and then could make landfall up in the Carolinas. But I wanted to highlight, Mike, look at all of these scenarios from the the European ensemble. Several of them come ashore in Florida. Do not take that one peanut model run that stays offshore to gospel and say, oh, this is going to miss Florida. That could cost lives if we make decisions based on that.
You would want that to happen model run after model run and happen consistently in order for you to have some confidence in it.
Yeah, and we'd want to see some agreement in the ensembles here. Look at that agreement out here. We do not have that agreement out here.
Yeah.
Could still get into the Gulf, could still slam into Florida, could still just miss Florida. All those are possible.
All right, Dr. Knapp, thank you very much. So let's check in on how they're preparing here in Florida. Let's take you to Orlando tonight. Meteorologist Felicia Combs is there for us this evening. One thing that we have noticed, Felicia, is that the gas stations the past couple of days have been packed. The stores have been packed.
And you know what? That's what we've been hearing, too, from everyone that we talked to on the street. They've been saying it's already been rough. It's already been rough getting gas. It's already been rough finding water. We have heard that, particularly in the Orlando area, even of this morning, about 1/3 of the gas stations were out. However, we did get some reports that the Florida Highway Patrol is now escorting those fuel tankers in Florida to the gas stations to kind of help get through those lines and replenish those fuel supplies. Particularly here in Orlando, there has been just this sense that everyone is kind of preparing and knowing that, they need to take this very seriously. The international airport in Orlando is Orlando International, ceasing commercial flights as of 2 a.m. Monday, which is when things are really expected to deteriorate. Walt Disney World, though, they are saying they're continuing operations as normal until they have, more of a secure word on the path. So I kind of think that's, in general, what everyone here in Orlando is doing. The streets in downtown Orlando kind of empty, to say that it's a Friday afternoon on a holiday weekend. Now, granted, we have had rounds of rain here, so maybe that's part of it. But also, I do think from everyone that we've talked to, they're just really taking this storm seriously, and that's what we like to see. Everyone is getting prepared. I think what mostly people have been thinking, by Sunday evening, you really want to have everything done at the very latest. And, of course, storms in the forecast every day leading up to Dorian here in Florida, typical summertime. So everyone is just trying to get prepared. So I'm here in Orlando. We also have Mike Seidel in Melbourne, and he is keeping a close eye on how things are going there. Mike.
Hey, good afternoon, Felicia, here from the Space Coast, where everybody, that's all they're talking about. Restaurants and bars, I've been kind of overhearing people talking about the models. Is it going to? Isn't it? Is it not going to happen? They bring up a lot from 1979 Hurricane David. That was the last one that really took a swipe here. It came right along the coast as a 100-mile-an-hour Category 2 hurricane. And then 3 years ago we had Matthew, and they were ready for the worst. And Matthew stayed just far enough offshore that winds here on the coast were no more than about 50 to 60 miles an hour. So they've been very, very lucky. Right now, though, we're watching what's going on with travel, and out in the distance is one of those cruise ships that goes out of Port Canaveral, and they've made some significant adjustments. If you're taking a cruise out of there, I'm sure you've been notified from your cruise director, your cruise company, that things are changing. This one went out today. Others are going out tomorrow, and some of the Sunday cruises are shifting back to Saturday. Let's bring in Mark Claycomb, who is the PIO of the Melbourne City Police. And Mark, we're still several days away from any kind of weather. What kind of plans are underway here in the city of Melbourne?
Well, the city and actually every agency in the county has been planning for this for a couple of days. We're having several meetings a day to make sure we keep on track with the new information. We're doing exactly what we ask the public to do, which is stay tuned and monitor it. So many things can change, even now, before the storm makes landfall, potentially Monday. So we are preparing the city for it and our residents for it. If there are evacuations that are called for, we're preparing for the traffic flows and hunkering down for the storm and making sure our people are safe.
Yeah, and you went through Matthew 3 years ago. What was that like? Because you prepared for a lot worse storm, and this has the potential to stay farther offshore, although we're a long way away from calling that.
Correct. Matthew was one of the few that we knew was tracking for us, and until the very end, we thought it was coming to us. We always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And in this case, it's tracking further south than we originally anticipated, but we are prepared for it coming up the state and creating an incredible amount of rain and the flooding that may be associated with that, even if it's not a major hurricane.
Yeah, and the EOC is going to activate their center on, did you say Sunday?
And looking right now that we're planning on Sunday to go into emergency mode, but that's if everything stays on track the way it is right now. So we're monitoring it, and we can always adjust that as needed.
Yeah, and I just saw on social media that Brevard County schools are closed on Tuesday.
Correct.
and all activities, after-school activities, now canceled from tomorrow through Tuesday.
That is correct.
So more meetings, more planning?
Absolutely. We'll be meeting each day to make sure we have the latest information to make the best choices for our people, for their safety, and for the residents.
Okay, thanks, Mark Claycomb, PIO with Brevard County and also the City of Melbourne. And one thing we got going for us, Mike Bettis, is time. It's time to prepare, time to know your plan, get your medicines in order. We've got several days before we get the first impacts from Dorian here on the Space Coast in Brevard County. So, don't waste time. Get going and get moving. I have seen some buildings here on the Barrier Island that have boarded up.
Listen, it's never too soon, that's for sure. Mike, thanks so much. As Mike mentioned, we still got a little bit of time, but let's bring in now the director of the National Hurricane Center, Ken Graham, joining us live from Miami this evening. Ken, it is good to talk to you again this evening. Talk about the latest advisory that came in at 5 o'clock and a little bit more about the track here, because some of the models now are hinting, potentially, especially the European model, hinting at more of an eastward track once it gets toward Florida.
And you can see that reflected in our forecast as well. When we get these ensemble forecasts, we try to take all the different models and put those together. So what happens is it nudges it a little bit towards the right, a little bit towards the east coast here, but still a lot of impact. So even though we've moved the forecast a little bit here, we're still talking about a major hurricane. I mean, a Category 4 that approaches the Texas, the Florida coast. And really anybody in the Gulf Coast we've been talking about for a while getting ready. But now we're starting to see some more indications of this turning towards the north. But look at the length of time here. I mean, you're talking, this is Tuesday, that's Wednesday. That's a long time to have hurricane force winds. And Ken, let's reinforce this message about not letting our guard down, because I've already seen some of the discussion out there today. Oh, looks like some of the models say it's going to miss, and I fear people are starting to let their guard down just a little bit on the east coast of Florida. This could still come barreling in as a high-end major hurricane and maybe affect multiple metro areas in a very significant way. Yeah, Dr. Knapp, let's really talk about this, because that's been the number one question that I seem to be getting all day. Everybody comparing the different models, but everybody has to really understand those are deterministic. That's one solution. We're using dozens and dozens of these solutions and blending those together. You can't let your guard down. We're still talking a very powerful hurricane, a Category 4 system here, high winds, 140-mile-an-hour winds, slow movement, lots of rainfall. We still have to be prepared. Even though this shifts back and forth a little bit, there's no change in the real impacts of this system. It's still some air. Look at the cone. So 2/3 of the time, we can still get this center inside this cone. So anybody in these areas still has to be ready for these devastating impacts.
When do you think, given the current timing, that a hurricane watch might be issued for some portion of the east coast of Florida?
It's interesting. It's been a situation that's been wait for it. With this slower movement, we've backed up the time here. So if you look at the onset of these tropical storm force winds, you're really looking at, Monday morning, even Sunday night. So if you back that up about 48 hours, we're going to have a ton of conversations about this all night tonight. So tomorrow's the day that we'll start looking at it. And we want to be really aware of where we put out those watches, because, that's a case that, we want people to be aware. We want to get the right areas. We want to do this right. So it looks like we're going to back that up 48 hours because of slow movement. We're going to have a lot of conversations about this overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning.
And thanks so much for talking to us this evening. That is Ken Graham, the director for the National Hurricane Center, live in Miami this evening. We see pretty high confidence next 2 days in the forecast. How difficult is it then, beyond that, when the forecast track slows down? How difficult is it then to determine where it goes?
When steering currents collapse, the models get inconsistent, and then we as the humans have to be consistent in our message about what is still possible. And it is still possible that this could come ashore or close enough to cause terrible damage anywhere in the east coast of Florida, maybe the whole east coast of Florida.
All right, Dr. Knapp, thank you. And stay tuned when we come back, what you need to be doing now in preparation for Dorian.
Doug, number 36 in the stakeout. As soon as the homeowners arrive, we'll inform them that Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, so they'll only pay for what they need. Your turn to keep watch, Lehman. Wake me up if you see anything. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 Liberty.
Discover new San Pellegrino Essenza, A twist of Mediterranean flavors with the gentle bubbles of San Pellegrino. Add a twist of flavor. San Pellegrino Essenza. Tastefully Italian.
Lowe's knows more daylight is more time to do your summer projects right. We do summer right too, with everyday deals on all you need. So what you want to do gets done how you want it. Now get 5 bags of premium mulch for $10. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Lower carbs. Lower calories. Higher expectations. The light beer you've been waiting for has arrived.
The Subaru Crosstrek. Dog tested, dog approved.
Oh my, this Heinz mayonnaise is so creamy. One day you'll tell your grandkids about it. And they'll say, Grandpa, just tell us about Humpty Dumpty. And you'll say, he broke his pelvis or whatever. Now back to my creamy Heinz mayonnaise. Heinz mayonnaise, unforgettably creamy.
Isabel runs an orphanage in India that I'm thinking of funding.
Isabel, what are you doing here?
I don't trust your wife.
She's going to give you money and you're going to question her integrity.
What does she want?
Rated PG-13.
Now playing at a theater near you. You're a big deal to us, so we've got big deals for you. Build up your fall wardrobe during the big deal event at Men's Warehouse this Labor Day. Suits start at $179.99. Dress and woven shirts are 3 for $99.99, plus take an extra 40% off select clearance items. Only at Men's Warehouse.
Attention Roundup users. Are you an agricultural worker, farm worker, nursery worker, landscaper, or local highway worker or groundskeeper who has regularly used the weed killer Roundup? If so, have you ever developed cancer or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma? If you answered yes, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation without going to court. In August of 2018, a jury ordered Monsanto, the makers of Roundup, to pay $289 million when a groundskeeper developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma after using Roundup. Agricultural workers, farm workers, nursery workers, landscapers, local highway workers, or groundskeepers who have regularly used the weed killer Roundup may be at risk for developing certain types of cancer. If you or a loved one developed cancer after using Roundup, you may be eligible for substantial financial compensation without going to court. Call the Negligence Network at 800-600-4113 for a free Roundup case evaluation. That's 800-600-4113. 800-600-4113.
Stream your news just like everything else you love with Local Now. It's completely free and ready to go when and where you are. Local Now. Find it in your favorite app store.
Now is definitely the time for everyone to be completing all hurricane preparations. Residents should make sure that emergency equipment, such as battery-powered radios, are in good working order. Finish putting up all your shutters. Test your generators and get fuel for them. Also, top off your gas tanks in your car. If you're on medications, make sure you have a full supply and get refills immediately. Ensure that sufficient emergency supplies, such as non-perishable food and water, are on hand for each person in the home to last at least 3 days.
Well, with Hurricane Dorian nearing Florida, you have at least 2 full days to prepare before tropical storm force winds arrive on shore. Our Stephanie Abrams shows us what you need to do now to get ready for Dorian.
The tropics have come to life. A storm is threatening. The clock is ticking. It's time to take action. We're just 48 hours out. A hurricane watch is imminent or has just been issued. Get your car filled with gas and make sure you have plenty of cash. And now's the time to check your evacuation kit. Make sure you have a few days of food and water, and grab any last-minute items. And check your insurance papers and other important documents and make sure they're up to date and saved electronically. Also, protect the documents that you are taking with you by putting them in a waterproof envelope. And don't forget to keep tabs on the forecast.
New models are just coming in, so be ready to adjust to any changes in the storm track or intensity. And remember that tropical storm...
The storm is growing stronger and getting closer. We're only 24 hours out. A hurricane warning is up. So finish securing windows and openings with shutters or plywood. Remove all loose items on your property and follow advice of local officials and evacuate if told to do so. Now, the outer bands of the storm are just coming ashore, and it's time to be at your safe location. Family members and friends, they need to know where you are, so share your plans. And remember, all your electronics need to be fully charged, because with a storm like this, let me tell you, the power, it could be out for days. And the weather's going downhill fast. Landfall is upon us. Trees are starting to come down. Now is the time to shelter in place and ride out the storm.
Listen, if there is a state that is hurricane savvy, it is Florida. We've had a lot of experiences with them. We've also fortified the electricity grid. The building codes are as stringent as any state in the union, right? So we've done that. Now it's up to everyone else individually to do their part.
Absolutely. We have a little time before that happens. And I wanted to expand upon what we just saw from Stephanie, because in this particular case, there's going to be potentially a lot longer time between when the winds of tropical storm force arrive and when landfall of the center arrives. And we just quickly show this. Look at it. Here's Monday night. Here's Tuesday. Well, Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, if the forecast is exactly right. Let's say it were to come ashore exactly in the middle of the cone. That's a Tuesday evening kind of landfall of the center. Look at when winds of tropical storm force could arrive in that same general area. Monday morning, you could be dealing with tropical storm force winds a day and a half before landfall of the center occurs, and then you got the back end of the storm. That's the kind of 2 to 3 day event we could be talking about.
Long duration event, and so it's really going to wear on people. There's no question about that. Probably already has.
Yeah, so we could be taking shelter and be done with our preparations, and then we wait a day or two for landfall to occur at the center. So this could be really a difficult situation. Now, the cone, compared to the European ensembles, shows how useful that cone can be, right? And with all these track possibilities, that cone is still a pretty good representation of what could happen. Left side goes into the Gulf, right side stays offshore Florida, everything in between.
It gets complicated about right in here.
I don't know why you're telling me that. Tell her that.
Probably talking about her the track slows down so much, maybe if it potentially becomes stationary, the computer models that we use really to help forecast this thing go in a million different directions.
Yeah, so some of these scenarios would be unprecedented, unique, historic in some ways. Some of them would be really beneficial to stay offshore. But there are some past storms that it's worthwhile to bring back up, not because we think history is going to exactly repeat itself, but there are things we can learn. With Matthew, 2016, that track was just offshore, but do you remember how bad the damage was on the east coast of northeastern Florida? So you don't have to have landfall of the center to have bad impacts.
I remember how bad Charleston, South Carolina flooded then.
Yeah, and then here is Francis, 2004, that made landfall there just north of Palm Beach. That was a Cat 2 when it made landfall, but that was one of those really slow-moving systems. And I was in South Florida, and it was maddening to deal with tropical storm force winds for a couple of days.
Everything just stayed just offshore for a while.
But if you imagine a Francis maybe coming ashore a little bit farther south, a little bit farther north, and being stronger, as bad as Francis was, this could be worse than that. Now, Andrew and Katrina I bring up just to highlight that it is still within the realm of possibility to get something to cross the southern or other portions of Florida.
That would be these two right here.
Yeah, so it could still cross Florida and get into the Gulf. So all of these, as bad as they were, Dorian could be bad in some of these ways and bad in his own ways.
Yeah. Dr. Nath, a good comparison there. Maybe for some of you that went through one or two or three of these storms, now you have kind of a starting point.
But if you got through that one, don't think you'll get through Dorian.
All right, Dr. Nath, thank you. We're going to take you back to Florida. Meteorologist Mike Seidel for us tonight, live in Melbourne.
Hey, Mike and Dr. Nab, something that's going to arrive long before the impacts of Dorian, the direct impacts, the swell, the big waves are going to start rolling into the beaches later tomorrow. We'll watch that surf increase tomorrow and Sunday.
The Lab is brought to you by State Farm. There for when things go wrong, but also here to help life go right.
Wish you were here to see how bright the human spirit can shine. To see that no matter what nature does, people will do more. With one of the industry's largest catastrophe response teams, State Farm will always be among the first to arrive and the last to leave. To help show that human nature is greater than nature.
Hi, I'm Johnny Bench. After a Hall of Fame career, it's no wonder I use Blue Emu. Blue Emu's non-greasy, deep-penetrating formula gets down deep into those joints for big-time comfort and without any of that funky smell. Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink.
Stouffer's lasagna with meat and sauce has 2 times the beef of the leading meat sauce lasagna. That's double the tender ground beef baked into every cheesy, mouth-watering bite. When it comes to irresistible taste, more is always more. Stouffer's.
Oh my, this Heinz mayonnaise is so creamy. One day you'll tell your grandkids about it. And they'll say, Grandpa, just tell us about Humpty Dumpty. And you'll say, he broke his pelvis or whatever. Now back to my creamy Heinz mayonnaise. Heinz mayonnaise, unforgettably creamy.
The Joseph A. Bank Labor Day sale. Save up to 60% off everything. All suits on sale starting at $199. Dress and sports shirts for $29. Plus an extra 50% off clearance. The Labor Day sale. Only at Joseph A. Bank.
Curb appeal. You know it when you see it. You want it when you pass it. And with the Home Depot, you absolutely get it. With more ways to boost your curb appeal with the best brands around. You can do it or have it done for you. You know curb appeal when you see it, so start seeing it. Today is the day for doing with the best brands in paint. The Home Depot. More safe, more doer.
Everyone has a crew. A stone cold, never blink, walk in slow motion crew. 3 rows, built for everyone. Leave no one behind in this sporty, spacious, crew-ready Cadillac XT6.
So how did this happen?
Now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Get your birdseed ready.
United Healthcare helps connect you to care whenever you need it.
So I'm not going to need stitches then?
No, just the antibiotic cream. Oh, watch out.
United Healthcare.
Son, I need to tell you something.
What is it, Dad?
If you ever have any questions, you call 1-877-522-5001.
Dad, I've always wanted to hear you say that.
I wish my dad would have said that to me.
Make Father's Son time truly special with Dos Equis. Keep it interesante.
With the Capital One Saver Card, you earn 4% cash back on dining and 4% on entertainment. So when you go out, you cash in. What's in your wallet?
Thanks for staying with us here on the Weather Channel as we continue to track Hurricane Dorian for you, Category 3 hurricane. If you've got questions about the hurricane, we are here to answer those questions. We'll do it live on this show tonight. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, send your question, but be sure to include this hashtag, Hurricane Questions. We're going to answer them rapid fire later in the show, so nothing's off limits, folks. No question is stupid. We know you're all very curious about this. We do our best to answer those questions. We know that folks that live in the Bahamas and across the Florida are certainly getting ready for Hurricane Dorian. Shoppers here stocking up on water, food, plywood, all in preparation of a major hurricane. Dorian has sustained winds at 115 miles per hour right now. That's Category 3. Forecast, with the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, to go up to 140 miles per hour, as our hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knapp has mentioned. Could be higher, could be the same, could be lower. It's going to fluctuate. There's no question about that.
Yeah, all major hurricanes go through some kind of ups and downs and internal structural changes. And just because we've made it to major hurricane doesn't mean we're done with intensification. There's just nothing that we can find in the environment or in the storm itself to suggest that it has plateaued or peaked. It is probably going to get a bit stronger. 115 miles an hour now, and we'll see what the Air Force and NOAA planes find as they're on their way out there this evening. We'll pass on those data when we give them to you. West-northwest at 9. That is a slower forward motion, and it's a little bit more to the left than, say, about a day ago. So it's in the process of making that turn that we've been anticipating. It really has nowhere else it can go because of that big high-pressure ridge to the north that's going to send it off to the west. And the confidence has increased that we're going to have, if not a direct hit, something very close to the northwestern Bahamas. So hurricane warning is up there, including Freeport and Nassau. It does not include Andros. You're under hurricane watch. This means hurricane conditions expected somewhere in the northwestern Bahamas, excluding Andros, in the next 36 hours. But it's possible there, too. If it were to take a track a little bit on the left side, the south side of the cone, you see that. So here's Andros. You don't have to be in the cone to be in a watch or a warning, right? And with a continued intensification and with a lot of possibilities for what kind of slowdown and meandering or even looping that it could stall somewhere here over the northwestern Bahamas, over the Gulf Stream, over Florida. We have to get ready for a long duration event. A slow-moving major hurricane over populated areas is about the worst kind of hurricane that I can think of. Everything's on the table: damaging and life-threatening winds, storm surge at the coast, winds and inland flooding in inland areas. It could get into the Gulf. It could stay just offshore. It's Sunday night into Monday morning, Mike, that the winds first could start arriving on the east coast of Florida. So that's why hurricane watches might go up either later tonight or tomorrow morning for Florida.
And when that happens, then you really got to put everything in order and complete your preparations at that point. If you do that. All right, Dr. Knapp, thank you. Live look at Nassau, the Bahamas for you right now. Northern Bahamas currently under hurricane warning. The cone of Dorian could move into that area. The hurricane itself could move in maybe as early as Monday, but it is slowing down quite a bit. We do know that the Bahamas and Florida certainly on a high alert as Hurricane Dorian is now strengthening. Chris Warren explains the dangerous history of hurricanes in the Bahamas.
Known for its resorts and beautiful beaches, the Bahamas includes 700 islands and keys, though only about 30 are inhabited. Stretching across more than 500 miles in the Atlantic, the northern Grand Bahama Island lies only 60 miles from the Florida coast. Roughly 400,000 people live in the Bahamas, more than half in the capital city of Nassau on Paradise Island. 75% of the country's economy is driven by tourism. But the country's low and flat terrain make it vulnerable to hurricanes. And since it stretches for hundreds of miles, these powerful storms may devastate one area while leaving others unharmed. On average, a hurricane passes the Bahamas roughly every 2 years, with a direct hit every 4. Though recent storms have hit the country hard, the worst of Hurricane Irma spared most of the Bahamas, but to the extreme south, Ragged Island lost the majority of its infrastructure during the Category 5 storm. In October 2016, Matthew made landfall on Grand Bahama Island as a Category 4 hurricane. It had winds of 130 miles an hour and an 8-foot storm surge, causing more than $400 million in damage. And in 2015, Hurricane Joaquin hit the southern islands as a Cat 4 with an 18-foot storm surge recorded on Long Island. During Joaquin, the U.S. cargo ship El Faro disappeared and sank near Crooked Island, killing all 33 crew members on board.
We want you to stick around. Coming up here on Weather Underground, sandbags, a very effective way to defend against flooding. But we've got the right way and the wrong way to do it. We're going to show you straight up ahead. And wrapping up a Hurricane Home Protection series, peeling back the layers to show you how you can arm your home against hurricane force winds.
If you have moderate to severe psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis, little things can be a big deal. That's why there's Otezla. Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats differently. For psoriasis, 75% clearer skin is achievable with reduced redness, thickness, and scaliness of plaques. For psoriatic arthritis, Otezla is proven to reduce joint swelling, tenderness, and pain, and the Otezla prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. It may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
Lowe's knows more daylight is more time to do your summer projects right. We do summer right too, with everyday deals on all you need. So what you want to do gets done how you want it. Now get 5 bags of premium mulch for $10. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Is that it?
That's the total.
Sure you beeped everything?
I beeped it all.
Did you beep this one?
Yep, beeped it.
And you beeped this?
Beeped it.
Did you beat my pizza?
Actually, I booped that one.
Beep.
I hired the team at Bathfitter, and now I've got a bathtub that I love. They use the same high-quality materials that they use in luxury hotels, which is great. Except when my mom comes to visit, she thinks she's staying in a 5-star hotel.
Housekeeping!
Yes, Mom? Sweetie, I could use some fresh towels.
From luxury hotel homeowners, Bathfitter exceeds expectations, and we've got over 2 million satisfied customers to prove it. Call now or visit bathfitter.com for a free in-home consultation.
This is your wake-up call. If you have moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis, month after month, the clock is ticking on irreversible joint damage. Ongoing pain and stiffness are signs of joint erosion. Humira can help stop the clock. Prescribed for 15 years, Humira targets and blocks a source of inflammation that contributes to joint pain and irreversible damage.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections. Serious and sometimes fatal infections, including tuberculosis and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Help stop the clock on further irreversible joint damage. Talk to your rheumatologist. Right here, right now. Humira.
So, Josh, you going for a Drive Safe and Safe discount?
Yep, using the app, driving safe. You wanna go, bro? Do not mess with my discount.
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save.
This is nice.
Yeah, this is nice.
How did you make the dip so rich and creamy?
Oh, it's a Philadelphia.
Family recipe.
Can I see it?
Philadelphia dips. So good, you'll take all the credit.
Thanks for staying with us as we continue to track Hurricane Dorian. The east coast of Florida likely to be a target. Meteorologist Mike Seidel joins us live this evening from Melbourne, Florida. Mike, you know, we've got a couple of days still yet, but that ocean's going to send us some signals, isn't it?
It is. First of all, the water is very warm. You and Dr. Knapp have talked about that. The prime breeding ground, these water temperatures about 85. Also, as we get into tomorrow and Sunday, what we call the swell, the waves being built up by Dorian hundreds of miles away will propagate. They're propagating this way right now, so we'll start to see the waves ramp up. And then the beach erosion will start, certainly by Sunday and Monday. Big threat here for a lot of beach erosion on the east coast of Florida. Now, with that said, high tide, 8:45. The water at high tide comes up right about here, so there's not a whole lot of beach left. You got about 25 or 30 yards. Now, we do have a nice dune here with sea oats and also these sea grapes. It goes up about 8 or 10 feet, but you know, you talk about a 3 or a 4 and that onshore flow. This whole beach goes underwater and water goes over the dune line. They had issues with Matthew, and Matthew stayed off the coast and was not as strong as Dorian is progged to be. So over the next couple of days, they're going to be waiting and watching the Brevard County EOC, expected to ramp up their operations, open up their emergency center. on Sunday. So we don't expect any evacuations here before Sunday or Monday. In fact, schools now are closed on Tuesday here in Brevard County. A lot of people, I mean, they're worried because they know it's a 3 or it could be a 4. They saw what happened to their friends and neighbors up in the Panhandle last year with Michael. And they know that a 4 or even a 3 is nothing to mess around with. So the suspense really building here up and down the east coast of Florida, especially here on the Space Coast. Mike?
All right, that's Mike Seidel live for us this evening in Melbourne, Florida. Mike, thank you so much. And when it comes to a hurricane, reducing your risk from wind and water is definitely key.
Yeah, and that's why I went to the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety to show you how to protect your home. And today, we're focusing on the construction of your home and arming your roof for a hurricane with Chris Flynn. He's the general manager of the IBHS Research Center. Chris, what can we do to make sure that our shingles have a greater chance of staying on the roof?
Right, it's a great point. So one of the things that's easy for a homeowner to do, sort of a DIY project, is to go to your local box store, get a tube of roof cement, get on a ladder, be very careful when you're doing it, make sure the ladder is firmly planted. But what you really want to focus on is getting adhesive right here within the front, inch or so, and spacing it out about every 11 inches. To get that roof cement down, go ahead and push down on it firmly to make sure that it gets a good seal, and then you can continue on with that process, moving across the roof, putting a dab about every 11 inches or so underneath that tab. That will make sure that it's well adhered. It won't lift off easily. You can see the strip that was originally there. In some older roofs, as they get age on them, you will see that those dry out and they lose some of their adhesion, and they do start to peel up just as I pulled them up there. The other thing is while you're focusing on that first row, you may want to just take a look up your roof, see if there's other shingles. If there is something that you can easily reach and feel comfortable getting to, by all means, go ahead and get there. Get to that shingle and put another bit of roof cement onto it. But the key is doing it safely, right? Once you get onto the roof, in hot weather, these things can become slippery. The granules will actually lose adhesion into the asphalt shingles, and that becomes like a water slide in a sense. So and safety is a paramount thing here when you're getting onto a roof. And if you don't feel comfortable, you should be hiring a contractor to get to that.
All right, so if I can safely get to this first row of shingles on my ladder, and I only adhere these shingles, how much benefit is just doing this first row going to give me?
Doing that is key, as well as any of them, but especially at the front, because once that starts to peel up, you get this sort of cascading or unzipping effect where the next layer is going to go, and you're starting with the exact first row here, so stopping that one at least gives you some benefit to it. It's not to say that you won't have that problem later on up on the roof, but getting that first one is key too, because there's so much going on right here at the front edge. You've got flashing that curls around the front typically as well. And basically all the layers are starting here that become part of your roof.
But the key here is multiple layers of protection. You want to keep the shingles on, but you still want to have those additional layers of protection beneath the shingle.
Absolutely. They all work together. It's like a big sandwich.
That first row, I didn't think about that. The first row right along the gutters is really important.
Yeah, and that's actually something that you could go check in Dorian, is to see if that first row of shingles is well glued down, and you could go to a hardware store and get the right kind of glue to fasten those first rows of shingles down. You don't have to get up on the roof to do that, just get up on a ladder, and that could prevent the first row of shingles from going, which could connect and tear the rest of them off. So something you could do now.
And if you do that now, you might be good for a couple of years. That industrial adhesive is pretty strong stuff. You may not have to do it again for several more years.
It is, yeah. And then later on, we're going to talk about other ways to keep that roof attached to the rest of your house.
All right, you're looking forward to that, Dr. Nav. Thank you. And still to come here on Weather Under. I'm going to cover more of Dorian, but want to take you to the St. Louis metro area where we have severe weather right now and a tornado warning. A tornado moving northeast at 20 miles per hour. Franklin, St. Charles, and St. Louis counties all under tornado warnings right now. Potentially around Wildwood and eventually Chesterfield. We urge you to take shelter quickly here. Potential rotation there detected by radar. Circling it right there just to the southwest of Wildwood. Get to an interior room of your home, away from windows and exterior walls to the basement. Great place to be. Again, tornado warning in the St. Louis metro.
Ready.
And now, for their service to the community, we present Limu Emu and Doug with this key to the city.
It's an honor to tell you that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need. And now, we need to get back to work.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
This Labor Day, save up to 50% on over 300 floors at Lumber Liquidators Labor Day flooring sale. Get family-friendly waterproof flooring up to 50% off and AquaSeal water-resistant laminate flooring up to 25% off. Or save up to 40% on our top-of-the-line Bellawood hardwood. And let us arrange the installation for you. Plus, get 24 months on special financing for your entire project. Don't miss these incredible flooring deals. The Labor Day sale is going on now at Lumber Liquidators Floor Company.
Bear presents A Job Well Done. Painting be done and stay done. Bear, ranked #1 in customer satisfaction with interior paints. Right now, get incredible savings on Bear, exclusively at the Home Depot.
With all-day comfort for all-day fun, Depend FitFlex underwear features maximum absorbency, ultra-soft fabric, and new beautiful designs for your best comfort and protection guaranteed. Life's better when you're in it. Be there with Depend.
Alice loves the scent of Gain so much. She wished they came in a fabric softener, too. Say hello to your fairy godmother, Alice. Oh, and look, they've got Gain scent beads and dryer sheets, too.
When you start with a better hot dog from Oscar Mayer,
Oh.
no way to treat a dog. You can do no wrong.
Where did you learn that? The internet.
Yeah. With no artificial preservatives or added nitrates or nitrites, it's all for the love of hot dogs.
And no one has ever seen or heard them, but I know they're out there.
What was that? I heard it too.
With our laser-measured floor liners, cargo liners, the cup foam to secure your phone, side window deflectors, bump step, and no-drill mud flaps, WeatherTech's got you covered this summer. Order yours today at WeatherTech.com, the ultimate protection for your vehicle.
Hello?
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. The Center for Medicare Services has officially authorized new benefits Medicare Advantage plans may include. Plans may now include private home aids and rides to medical appointments. Most plans also include dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage. To get the benefits you deserve, call the Medicare Coverage Helpline now.
Hi, I'm Joe Namath. I called the Medicare Coverage Helpline, and they instantly advised me that I wasn't getting all the benefits I deserved. They explained I could get a plan that includes dental and prescription coverage, as well as the new coverage for private home aids and rides to medical appointments. If you want to find out what you deserve, call the number on your screen now. It's free. You'll be happy you called, I guarantee it.
Call to see if you can save money and get more benefits now. Don't delay. Call now. It's free. Call 1-800-346-4800. That's 1-800-346-4800 now.
Stream your news just like everything else you love with Local Now. It's completely free and ready to go when and where you are. Local Now. Find it in your favorite app store.
Following severe weather for you tonight, including a tornado warning in the St. Louis metro area. Live look on the left-hand side of your screen here, courtesy of EarthCam, and you can see a really intense thunderstorm with potential rotation coming through the west side or southwest side of town here. So yes, multiple counties under a tornado warning right now, including right in St. Louis County. So right around Wildwood, there's some rotation just outside of Wildwood. St. Louis, St. Charles, Franklin counties, all under tornado warnings right now. There is some rotation detected by the radar there. If you Wildwood or Chesterfield or the west side of St. Louis, you need to be taking shelter quickly here as a possible tornado is bearing down on you. Storm is moving northwest at 20 miles per hour. Get to an interior room and away from windows. If you have an underground shelter or a basement, it is a good place for you to be right now. We will continue to update you here on the tornado warning in St. Louis here throughout the show tonight and as warranted. But we want to return to our top story, and that is Hurricane Dorian. Category 3 hurricane winds are still at 115 miles per hour. Hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knapp joining us again. It's going to be a long time before this actually gets to Florida, if it even gets to Florida. It could be days from now. So people still have some time if they need to fortify their house or get supplies still.
Yeah, we do have the luxury of some time in Florida. Unfortunately, Dorian also has time to strengthen some more, and if the latest satellite images are any indication, it is on its way to becoming even stronger. As of the 5 p.m. advisory, maximum sustained winds at 115 miles an hour. That is the first rung of Category 3, moving west-northwest at 9 miles an hour. So it's in the process of making that turn to the left that we have been anticipating because of that high-pressure ridge off to the north. Now, I want to show you what's going on with the warnings. Northwest Bahamas, except for Andros Island, who's under hurricane watch. Everybody else under hurricane warning, including Nassau and Freeport. Really concerned about Grand Bahama and Freeport, given the latest forecast track. The NOAA hurricane hunters are on their way out. This is one of the NOAA P3s that has taken off from Lakeland, Florida. Give them another hour or so, and they should be getting close to the center of Dorian. And we'll see if the winds have come up and if the pressure has come down. The upper-level winds are certainly very conducive for strengthening. There's very little wind shear, and it is really breathing, unfortunately. Let's look at the visible imagery. This is quite a sight. I mean, it is at the very same time beautiful and absolutely terrifying, because you look at the power of this hurricane and the appearance on satellite imagery. Watch how the eye becomes so much better defined here in the last few images, especially with that angle of the sun. You get that stadium effect. This is power at its greatest in the atmosphere. It's really something, and this is capable of causing tremendous damage, not just due to the wind. It's a big wind machine, but also that kind of hurricane can push storm surge ashore. It could be even stronger by the time it gets to the northwestern Bahamas and to South Florida in the next couple of days, Mike.
Oh, we know that water could be a very big issue with this, Dr. Knapp, and I hear the folks in Tallahassee at sandbag stations getting the sand, filling up their sandbags, and hopefully trying to keep water away from their homes. Maybe you are one of those people trying to keep water away from your home. Maybe you're new to sandbagging, so we thought we'd give you a little demonstration on the do's and the don'ts when it comes to sandbagging, okay? So they may be offering free sand in your town, right? So let's go ahead and fill up the sandbag. You're like, all right, that's a big sandbag. Let's just fill this bad boy all the way up.
Yeah,
we don't actually want to fill it all the way up, though.
No, you want to fill it about halfway, ideally, and you either want to use sand or you want to use local soil. And by the way, these are heavy, okay? So when you are filling them up and when you are lifting them, putting them into place, be careful, use the right posture, and don't injure yourself.
Just like we talk about when people are shoveling snow, use your legs. Don't stress your back, because you could really, this is a lot of weight, and you could be filling up a lot of sandbags. And even if you're not using sand, you could use dirt from your yard. Please be careful.
And of course, the reason you're doing this is so you can stack them up and perhaps lessen the ability of water to get past them and into your structure. Now, you don't want to stack them more than about 3 high at a time unless they're pushed up against the building, because then they could fall over. But you could build a pyramid much higher.
Let's just stop right there.
Yeah.
Now, the bags will have ties on them. Ignore these for now, okay? Best way to put your bags down, let's start on this end. We'll just lay it down. This is going to be our end bag with the closed end on the end. This part right here is going to stay open. You're thinking, oh, that is crazy. There's a reason we're going to do this. We've got some pre-filled bags here, okay? These also have open ends. Watch what we do here. Take this bag, put it right on that one, smooth it out a little bit. Now you've got a nice, tight seal right there. You're going to take your next one. Same thing. Put it over the opened end of the other bag. nice and sealed tight right there.
We got to make this
that
a
one's
team
gonna be
effort
there.
here, Mike.
And then on the end, you can put that one there, and then you're gonna fold the edge under.
That's right.
So that now you've got a seal on the end. Then you can do the exact same thing along your next layer, but you're gonna stagger them just like that. Again, laying them open, and then down, and then nice tight seal. Last one goes down,
And
that
fold it
goes
under. Now, again, we wouldn't do more than about 3 layers high unless you had it against the building or if you did it in a big pyramid shape.
We've overfilled bags and tied them. Here's the wrong way to do it. Why? Big gaps underneath there. The water goes in. Don't fill them all the way. Half full and leave the ends open.
So, Josh, you going for a drive safe and safe discount?
Yep. Using the app, driving safe.
You want to go? You want to go, bro?
Hey, do not mess with my discount. You can save up to 30%.
Let's go!
Nice to meet you. Go get him, Tiger.
Sounds like you've got this.
Yeah, definitely.
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save from State Farm.
Take the floor somewhere unexpected. Everything you need is at your fingertips and at the Home Depot. On-trend styles with innovations to make it pet-proof. Make it life-proof. Make it waterproof. Make it beautiful. And the Home Depot has everything you need to make it yours. Today is the day for doing it, with even lower prices right now on vinyl plank, laminate, and tile, only from the Home Depot.
It's the Honda Summer Spectacular event, which means more of this. The kind of elation you can only experience after getting a great deal on a Honda Civic or Civic hatchback. Or an Accord. All come standard with the Honda Sensing suite of safety and driver-assisted features. And as you can see, all will provide you with plenty of joy. Come be a part of it today.
Get a great deal on the Honda Accord and find your happy place at the Honda Summer Spectacular event.
Introducing a razor that works differently. The Gillette Skin Guard, designed with a guard between the blades that helps protect skin. It guards against razor burn on the neck and irritation on the face. Get the shave you've been waiting for. Gillette Skin Guard.
You're a big deal to us, so we've got big deals for you. Build up your fall wardrobe during the big deal event at Men's Warehouse this Labor Day. Suits start at $179.99. Dress and woven shirts are 3 for $99.99. Plus, take an extra 40% off select clearance items. Only at Men's Warehouse.
What's better than one night of Olive Garden? How about 2? All new $5 take-home entrees. Enjoy any meal here. Then take home an all-time favorite like fettuccine Alfredo for just $5 more. Hurry in for $5 take-home entrees. Only at Olive Garden.
Discover new San Pellegrino Essenza, a twist of Mediterranean flavors with the gentle bubbles of San Pellegrino. Add a twist of flavor. San Pellegrino Essenza, tastefully Italian.
Breakfast wants you back. Try Just Crack an Egg, packed with diced potatoes, veggies, meat, and cheese. Just add a fresh egg for a hot scramble in less than 2 minutes to get those warm, fuzzy feelings again. Take breakfast back. Find it in the egg aisle.
Coming up right now on Weather Underground, Hurricane Dorian, a major hurricane in the Atlantic and expected to get even stronger. Its incredible power now zeroing in on the Bahamas. The dangerous threats Dorian poses as it approaches the southeast. The danger increasing from Florida to the Carolinas, and the time to prepare is now for what could be a marathon storm. Tonight, team coverage from Florida. And hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knapp will examine the suspense still surrounding Dorian as forecast models struggle to figure out where it will go. Plus, he'll break down how Dorian resembles past hurricanes like Matthew, Francis, and even Katrina. Hello, everyone. Welcome into Weather Underground on this Friday evening. I'm Mike Bettis. We know that many of you have a lot of questions about Hurricane Dorian, and we're going to answer those questions for you tonight. If you're on social media, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, it's a great way to communicate with us. Send your question, but also include this hashtag Hurricane Questions. We will answer your question over the course of the next 3 hours here on the show. Before we get to Dorian, I want to update you quickly on a tornado warning in the St. Louis metro area. A very intense storm moving through right now, and on the west side of town, a tornado warning in Franklin, St. Charles, and St. Louis counties, including around the Chesterfield area and around the Wildwood area, as well as some rotation being detected by the radar near Wildwood. So please take shelter quickly here in your safe room in your home, whether that be a basement, whether it be a first floor. Do not be in a second story or higher. Be on the ground floor in an interior room like the bathroom, closet, under a stairwell. Protect yourself and stay away from windows and exterior walls. We'll talk more about this as warranted this evening. Back to hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knabb and Dorian. Category 3 hurricane, expected, but it may go even higher than what it is now.
Yeah, kudos to the Hurricane Center for pretty much nailing the forecast intensity 24 hours ago, going from the 85 miles an hour to 115 now. It's pretty robust intensification, but it is what has happened. And we're expecting more strengthening because there's just nothing impeding this heat engine from tapping into that warm water, and with weak wind shear to get stronger. And the eye is becoming more and more impressive on the satellite imagery. We have a hurricane warning in effect for the northwestern Bahamas. That came out at 5 p.m. Eastern time. That includes Freeport and Nassau. That's for the expectation of hurricane conditions somewhere in that area, not necessarily everywhere, within the next 36 hours. And a hurricane watch for Andros, the only part of the northwestern Bahamas not in the warning. It is not yet time for hurricane watches for any part of the east coast of Florida, but that could be the case later tonight or into tomorrow morning because of the slowdown in forward motion that we expect with Dorian. NOAA hurricane hunters are out there. This is the P3 that's taken off from Lakeland. They're about halfway to the hurricane, and when they get all the way there, we'll share with you the data that they find and see if what we're seeing on satellite is confirmed with data that we're seeing on satellite. It's even looking more impressive than it did just a couple hours ago. Look closely at the water vapor imagery. You don't usually see the eye in water vapor until it becomes a major hurricane and it gets very well defined. Look at that, how circular that eye has become. And the water vapor also shows that tremendous outflow pattern. This upper level low over the Bahamas is getting out of the way, and this is going to be dominated by upper level high pressure and weak wind shear all the way to Florida. Let's zoom in on this on the visible imagery. It is impressive. That stadium effect, especially with the low sun angle as we get towards sunset, it is impressive. Zoom in even farther on the high-res imagery from the GOES satellite. It is scary, quite frankly, because if you imagine this being over the northwestern Bahamas and or Florida in the next few days, and if you imagine it being even stronger than this, that's why we really have to take notice. Look at the interior of the eye. You see some spokes kind of rotating around like the spokes on a bicycle wheel, and there at the end of the loop you see that stadium effect. So no hurricane hunters are going to be going in there. Wow, are they going to have a sight? But better them than us, right? We sure appreciate those brave women and men flying into these hurricanes to collect the data. And we expect as they fly into this over the coming days, the winds will go up, the pressure will go down, and the forward speed will go down. And we have to keep talking about Dorian and its characteristics, not just in terms of its max winds and its category, but its forward speed. The slow category are the types of hurricanes I hate the most, and this is going to be a slow-moving major hurricane moving near over a lot of land areas, a lot of populated areas here, and it still could turn before the center comes ashore in Florida. But what if the center comes close enough that it's still feeding off the warm waters of the Gulf Stream, and you're still getting hurricane conditions and storm surge and rainfall on land? It could still get into the Gulf. It still could go over much of the state of Florida as a significant hurricane. How much time do we have left? Well, for southeastern Florida, if the tropical storm force winds arrive there, it would be sometime late Sunday night into early Monday morning, the most likely time of arrival. So, you back up 48 hours from that, that would be late tonight or early tomorrow morning that the hurricane watch would go up, and the Hurricane Center is going to be trying to refine who goes under a hurricane watch. And it's not just about wind. Look at the areas we're concerned about as we go well into next week. This could be an extremely significant inland flood disaster in one or more locations. Flooding due to heavy rainfall is very likely somewhere within this area, if not in many parts of this area. And regardless of whether or not it actually crosses Florida, the center of Dorian, we are expecting a lot of moisture to get up into portions of the southeastern United States, Mike. So we've got to be thinking about how we stay alive from inland flood. Turn around, don't drown. That's why we're talking about sandbagging, because that's the high-end flood event that we could be facing.
So many different aspects of the storm that we have to be fearful of, unfortunately. Dr. Knapp, thank you. Let's bring you the latest on what we know right now with Hurricane Dorian. The Orlando International Airport plans to cease operation early Monday, 2 a.m. According to Gas Buddy, 60% of Miami gas stations right now are out of gas. Atlanta Motor Speedway opening up its camping facilities to Dorian evacuees. There are a lot of people that watch the track of this storm, Dr. Knapp. They're like, okay, Miami, okay, Daytona, okay, Jacksonville, oh, Carolinas. The atmosphere that's steering it is really complicated right now.
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty good understanding in the big picture of what Dorian's going to do and why, but when it gets down to the details that really matter about what town gets what winds and what water, that's where the uncertainty still lies, especially because steering currents are going to collapse in a few days. Let me show you why. So right now we got a big old ridge off to the north and northeast of Dorian, and over the next couple of days, that ridge stays pretty well entrenched, and by Sunday evening, that westward motion will have continued, and according to the GFS model, it could be centered near or over the northwestern Bahamas on Sunday evening. But then, you go one day forward, it's not going anywhere. I mean, this is a scary scenario for the northwestern Bahamas. For a place like Freeport on Grand Bahama, you could be sitting in the eye wall for hours and hours and hours.
Not to mention, in this scenario, you're still pushing water toward the east coast of Florida.
You
could maybe start beach erosion already at this point.
Yeah, and remember, our likely time of arrival of winds of tropical storm force is Sunday night into Monday morning. This is Monday night. Okay, so you could already have had tropical storm conditions started on the east coast of Florida, but the center is still well offshore. And if the GFS is right, it lumbers along and doesn't make landfall until maybe Tuesday evening. And then even after that, it's a slow mover up the east coast. If that kind of scenario plays out, you could be raking millions of people along the east coast of the southeast United States. Now, that's just one model. Let's look at the European model. General sense over the next couple of days, very much the same through Sunday night. Through Monday night, very much the same, barely moving and sitting over the northwestern Bahamas. But then, on Tuesday, it doesn't get much better. It doesn't move very much, but the center in this model run then through Wednesday and Thursday night stays just offshore. And I want to urge everybody not to take that to the bank and say, oh, good, the European model says it's going to miss Florida. Well, this track might not be exactly right, and by the way, the European model ensembles have a lot of solutions that do cross Florida, even into the Gulf or farther offshore, so we have to allow for all of these possibilities.
Or, remember, Hurricane Matthew did something very similar and destroyed the beaches in Florida.
The center doesn't have to come ashore to have bad conditions happening on land.
Well said, Doc. Thank you. Meteorologist Mike Sedell joining us live tonight. He is in Melbourne, Florida. You know, Mike, whether it comes onshore, through Florida, offshore, a place like Melbourne is likely to be a location that could see some very serious impact.
Yeah, the bottom line is you and Dr. Knapp have been talking, regardless of where it goes, there will be impacts here. That seems almost 100% certainty. But it really depends. Does the eye wall go inland? Does it stay right on the coast? Or does it stay offshore? Rain's going to be a big issue. Wind, we're going to get a lot of beach erosion. And one guy who's been through a lot of hurricanes, Paul Alfrey, who's one of the city council members here in Melbourne, joining us now. And you went through David as a kid, but also in 2004, 3 hurricanes, and then Matthew 3 years ago.
Yes.
And they're
all different. You got to prepare. You got to understand. Watching the news, we'll watch it for days, but each hurricane is different. Like you said, we're going to get beach erosion. We're going to get different winds. We just have to prepare. And at the city of Melbourne, that's what our staff is doing, working around the clock to prepare for our residents.
Well, that's one thing I said earlier. We have the fortunate situation here that we have a lot of time.
Right.
Because it's still well off the coast.
Sure.
We may not get really significant impacts till later Monday and certainly Tuesday. So what are you doing as far as ramping up the emergency operations in Melbourne and Brevard County?
Our members of our staff, they're right now monitoring with you. We're preparing. We have sandbags for our residents. They're on Sarno Road. If you're a Melbourne resident, with ID, you can get up to 10. Brevard County has them at different locations. So besides that, we've also been planning for years with the infrastructure. If you look at the mastheads for the street lights are on mastheads now instead of being on cables. So hopefully with everything that we've been doing with this storm, it will really help us prepare for this storm.
And you think you're going to have problems getting people off the beach? I know it's not it's the off season. It's mostly locals here on the coast, and we're hoping that what they saw from Michael in the Florida Panhandle will be, turn the light on and say, hey, we got to get out of here if this comes in as certainly a 3 or a 4.
Well, I think because it's so slow when we're watching it, we have no idea what it's going to do at this time. I just hope people prepare, get their families ready, get their pets ready, anything they need, medication, and get ready to go if you have to go. Because if everybody decides to go at one time, it's going to be gridlock.
Well, I think yesterday everybody got their groceries, so that's out of the way, and they're getting their gas. How are gas lines here in this county that you've noticed?
I've noticed today it wasn't too bad. It depends on where you went. I noticed in West Melbourne there were quite a few lines, and I noticed the governor earlier speaking. They're trying to work on getting the trucks in, but right now we're still in a holding pattern. But I think we can all probably agree that somebody's going to get hit on this.
Well, we hope that it pulls at least to Matthew and stays off the coast.
That would be nice.
You're still going to get a lot of impacts, but at least it cuts down on the sheer fury of what would happen if a 3 or 4 came right on shore.
Right, and we've been lucky for many years. I mean, we had the 3 back-to-back back 15 years ago. We've been very lucky. We can't get complacent and understand we just have to prepare and just, we need to hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Paul Alfrey,
Thank
City
you.
Councilman,
Thank
Melbourne,
you.
good luck. We'll keep checking back with you.
Thank you for the report.
Sure, let's go up the coast. In fact, I can almost see him just up the coast at Cocoa Beach. NBC's Jay Gray. Jay, what's the latest from that end of the satellite coast?
Hey, Mike, well, I want to give you a first-hand look at the conditions here right now, and it is literally in Cocoa a day at the beach. You can see families out really enjoying the sand and the surf here. Not at all what you would expect on a Friday leading into a holiday weekend, but still people out and getting in one last beach day here. You've got local officials as well as state officials and first responders urging residents here and across the state, take advantage of these conditions right now. Good conditions. Get prepared, get ready, because they are going to go south very quickly once this storm decides where it's going to go here. We have seen in that regard people lined up at gas stations, people lined up at grocery stores, and really flooding, if you will, the home improvement stores here, getting all the supplies they'll need. And what officials here are saying is if you're going to do that, if your thought is you're going to ride this thing out, make sure you have enough food, water, medicine, all the supplies to last for at least a full week. People are going to lose power. Flooding is going to be an issue, stranding some people in certain areas where this thing hits. But again, that's the issue, Mike. Where and when? This thing is slowed down, and people tense wondering where Dorian's going to go.
We all want the answer. We just don't have it exactly yet. Jay Gray for us in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Jay, thank you so much for that. I want to take you up to Wilmington, North Carolina this evening. A live look, and it is really beautiful right now. But we know that Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina could all be in line for some significant rain, and that could lead to some significant flooding. We've seen it play out in previous storms, Dr. Nav. So if you're watching, hopefully, in North Carolina, get ready. That could be an issue.
Yeah, the last thing we want to be talking about with residents of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina is another flood-producing hurricane, especially up in the Carolinas.
It's happened too many times.
Yeah, but all of these possibilities mean you could have the center go near or over you. But also, Mike, we continue to see a lot of meandering and stalling in these 7-day long tracks. Some of them stop in North Carolina a week from now. So that kind of pattern in the ensembles means to me we're going to have slow motion and a significant flood potential. And we're very likely going to see some flooding somewhere here in the eastern 2/3 of the Florida Peninsula. But we're starting to get more concerned about southern Georgia and North and South Carolina. And when you look at the rain that could still come, if the European model track is correct, and remember, the center of circulation in this model run stays offshore, and you still get several inches of rainfall.
Where's the heaviest rain here?
Yeah.
The Carolinas.
In South and North Carolina. My goodness, do we really need to see that again? GFS model, of course, comes ashore in the east coast of Florida, and you ramp up the rainfall totals in all 4 states. And when you consider that these 4 states have significant rainfall records, North and South Carolina, they've been set recently, but Florida, could we break the record from 1950? Not out of the realm of possibility.
Just be ready for that. When we come back, the clock winding down. What you need to do before landfall. When we come back.
This was me 6 years ago. And this is me now. I got Liberty Mutual. They customized my car insurance, so I only pay for what I need. Then I won the lottery, got hair plugs, and started working out. And so can you.
Liberty Mutual cannot guarantee weight loss, hair gain, winning the lottery, newfound confidence, or the ability to inspire others. We customize your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need, which is pretty good. Don't be greedy.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Managing type 2 diabetes? Audrey's on it. Eating right and staying active?
On it.
Audrey thinks she's doing all she can to manage her type 2 diabetes and heart disease, but is her treatment doing enough to lower her heart risk? Maybe not. Jardians can reduce the risk of cardiovascular death for adults who also have known heart disease, so it could help save your life from a heart attack or stroke. And it lowers A1C.
Jardians can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, genital yeast or urinary tract infections, and sudden kidney problems. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. A rare but life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardians and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. Do not take Jardians if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Taking Jardians with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Lower A1C and lower risk of a fatal heart attack?
On it with Jardians.
Ask your doctor about Jardians. Lowe's knows more daylight is more time to do your summer projects right. We do summer right too, with everyday deals on all you need. So what you want to do gets done how you want it.
Now get 5 bags of premium mulch for $10. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Anyone can deliver pizza. Only Marco's can deliver America's most loved pizza. Hot and fresh and right to your door. Every day at Marco's, get 2 medium, 1-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Hello to the Italian way. Hello, Primo.
Imagine me and you and me, so happy together. I can't say they love nobody like you for all my life.
My Beneful Superfood Blend has me feeling super healthy with salmon, cranberries. Oh, but we are not done yet. Here comes Superfood Wet with beef, salmon, and pumpkin. It's like a superfood sundae on a Monday.
Beneful Superfood Blend dry and wet recipes.
This is Kate. She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
Success begins with certainty, knowing for certain your logo will look perfect. Trust the promotional product experts at 4imprint, and it'll be right the first time, on time, every time, guaranteed. For impressions that build trust, engagement that's exciting, and gestures that lead to meaningful conversations. For confidence that inspires everyone around you. Start with certainty. Explore thousands of promotional products at 4imprint.com. 4imprint, for certain.
Stream your news just like everything else you love with Local Now. It's completely free and ready to go when and where you are. Local Now. Find it in your favorite app store.
Now is definitely the time for everyone to be completing all hurricane preparations.
Residents should make sure that emergency equipment, such as battery-powered radios, are in good working order. Finish putting up all your shutters. Test your generators and get fuel for them. Also, top off your gas tanks in your car. If you're on medications, make sure you have a full supply and get refills immediately. Ensure that sufficient emergency supplies, such as non-perishable food and water, are on hand for each person in the home to last at least 3 days.
Miami-Dade's mayor advising the public on what to do in preparation of Dorian. We expect to hear from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis any moment, and we, of course, will bring that to you live as he is at the Emergency Operations Center there in Tallahassee this evening. As soon as he steps to the podium, we, of course, will bring that to you. In the meantime, with Hurricane Dorian nearing Florida, there's at least 2 full days to prepare before tropical storm force winds arrive. Stephanie Abrams shows us what you need to do right now to get ready for the storm.
The tropics have come to life. A storm is threatening. The clock is ticking. It's time to take action. We're just 48 hours out. A hurricane watch is imminent or has just been issued. Get your car filled with gas and make sure you have plenty of cash. And now's the time to check your evacuation kit. Make sure you have a few days of food and water, and grab any last-minute items. And check your insurance papers and other important documents and make sure they're up to date and saved electronically. Also, protect the documents that you are taking with you by putting them in a waterproof envelope. And don't forget to keep tabs on the forecast.
New models are just coming in, so be ready to adjust to any changes in the storm track or intensity. And remember that tropical
The storm is growing stronger and getting closer. We're only 24 hours out. A hurricane warning is up. So finish securing windows and openings with shutters or plywood. Remove all loose items on your property and follow advice of local officials and evacuate if told to do so. Now, the outer bands of the storm are just coming ashore, and it's time to be at your safe location. Family members and friends, they need to know where you are, so share your plans. And remember, all your electronics need to be fully charged, because with a storm like this, let me tell you, the power, it could be out for days. And the weather's going downhill fast. Landfall is upon us. Trees are starting to come down. Now is the time to shelter in place and ride out the storm.
All great advice there and things that you should be considering right now. All right, Dr. Nab back with us here in the lab. Talk a little bit more about past comparison, because Dorian's track could be similar to some ones that we've had in recent history.
Yeah, and one of the similarities you'll see in one of the examples I'll show is slow motion. And because of its slow motion, I wanted to expand upon what Stephanie showed. And in the case of Dorian, with the latest forecast, the time between the arrival of winds of tropical storm force and landfall of the center could not be just measured in hours, but days. Okay, so here is Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. Let's say that forecast track is exactly right. Tuesday afternoon landfall. In that same area of the coastline, winds of tropical storm force could arrive Monday morning. You could be talking about 36 hours on the front end of the storm. Then you've got another 36 hours potentially on the back end. You're talking 3 days just for the storm. You add the aftermath. I would get, in this case, closer to 7 days of food and water because of the aftermath. You might be on your own.
Listen, for some people that have gone through maybe a hurricane in the past, some hurricanes are in and out in a matter of just 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, like Charlie in 2004.
Yeah, Wilma going so quickly it's in and out, but this is going to be a completely different scenario.
Yeah, so let's compare the European ensembles to the cone and to some past hurricanes that have approached the east coast of Florida from the east in recent years. All of these possibilities include going across Florida into the Gulf, staying offshore completely, at least for the center, and then many solutions in between. So let's look at some past hurricanes to see if we can learn anything from them. Not that we are going to say that Dorian's going to be exactly like one of these, because I don't want anybody who's been through any of these hurricanes to go, oh, that one? I went through that one. That wasn't so bad. So if this one's going to be like that, I'll be fine. No, Dorian's going to write its own history. But Matthew, 2016, that one teaches us that the center of circulation might not come ashore, but you still have devastating impacts along the coast.
We had, and this thing came up through the Carolinas, produced some significant flooding in a place like Charleston.
It didn't make landfall until South Carolina, but some of the worst impacts were elsewhere. Now, Francis, 2004. Mike, I know you remember this one.
Oh, yeah.
Slow mover, Cat 2 at landfall. What if Dorian is a little bit like Francis, but is stronger and maybe makes landfall in a slightly different place? It could be worse of a long-duration event compared to Francis.
For sure. And there are other storms within there. Gene did something similar, did kind of a loop-de-loop, then eventually came in. But Katrina and Andrew, the comparison there is interesting.
Yeah, because what this highlights is storms coming in from the west can dive down a little bit to the south. Both Katrina and Andrew had a southern component of motion at some point on approach to Florida or departing. And also, it highlights that East Coast Florida landfalls can make it into the Gulf of Mexico. And if Andrew is a little farther north, could Dorian be that? We've always worried about that scenario.
But in that scenario, the Gulf of Mexico is still not completely out of play yet.
No, Florida Panhandle, you got to get ready as well as the rest of the state.
All right, Dr. Nev, thank you. When we come back here on Weather Underground, we take you back to Melbourne, Florida with meteorologist Mike Seidel.
Hey, Mike Bettis, Dr. Nab back out on the beach watching the surf. That is really going to ramp up over the next couple of days. And we'll tell you what one cruise ship did for the cruisers this afternoon and surprised them as the ship left Melbourne and Orlando.
The Lab is brought to you by State Farm. There for when things go wrong, but also here to help life go right.
Wish you were here to see how bright the human spirit can shine. To see that no matter what nature does, people will do more. With one of the industry's largest catastrophe response teams, State Farm will always be among the first to arrive and the last to leave. To help show that human nature is greater than nature.
Oh my, this Heinz mayonnaise is so creamy. One day you'll tell your grandkids about it. And they'll say, Grandpa, just tell us about Humpty Dumpty. And you'll say, he broke his pelvis or whatever. Now back to my creamy Heinz mayonnaise. Heinz mayonnaise, unforgettably creamy.
Curb appeal. You know it when you see it. You want it when you pass it. And with the Home Depot, you absolutely get it. With more ways to boost your curb appeal with the best brands around. You can do it or have it done for you. You know curb appeal when you see it. So start seeing it. Today is the day for doing it. Let home services boost your curb appeal. The Home Depot. More safe, more doing.
Stay on the lookout with next-gen
Oh.
rear camera mirror tech. Never miss the action in the sporty, spacious, crew-ready Cadillac XT6.
So how did this happen?
Now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Oh, get your birdseed ready.
United Healthcare helps connect you to care whenever you need it.
So I'm not going to need stitches then?
No, just the antibiotic cream. Oh, watch out.
United Healthcare.
With the Capital One Saver Card, you earn 4% cash back on dining and 4% on entertainment. So when you go out, you cash in. What's in your wallet?
Keeping the night interesting is all about setting the right tone. Lower carbs, lower calories, higher expectations. The right beer you've been waiting for has arrived. Corona Premier.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's the total.
Sure you
I'm the
beeped everything?
man.
Did you beep this one?
Yep.
I said I'm the man.
Good and beeped. And this? Beeped it.
And that.
Of course I beeped that. And that? Yep.
What about that?
Beeped it.
Did you beat my pizza?
Actually, I booped that one.
All these beeps and boops, and this is it?
That's it.
Beep.
Remember childhood? These little red boxes? And that sweet little sun-made raisins. Life was always play. And worries, what were they? Remember remember childhood, don't forget, it never left.
Welcome back to Weather Underground as we track Hurricane Dorian for you tonight. We know a lot of you have questions about this hurricane, and we'd love to hear from you. Send us your questions on Facebook or Twitter, and include this hashtag Hurricane Questions. And our team tonight going to answer those questions, as many as we can here through 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Well, in the Bahamas and across Florida, getting ready for Hurricane Dorian, shoppers here stocking up on water, food, plywood, gas, you name it, in all preparation here for a major hurricane. Currently the wind's at 115 miles per hour and expected to go even higher. So let's bring in our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb. You know, if you've watched this thing, and a lot of people at home will watch it very closely on a satellite, one thing that you hadn't seen up until today was a well-defined eye. Today it's completely recognizable.
Yeah, and over the last 2 or 3 hours, it has become even more impressive. Unfortunately, it's a combination of beautiful, awe-inspiring, and very, very scary. I've always kind of thought of hurricanes as something I'm very, very afraid of, and the more beastly they look, the more afraid I get. But the good news is that we don't have to let this hurricane determine our outcome. There's things we can do in the next couple of days before it starts to arrive in land areas to protect ourselves from what is probably going to be a hurricane with greater than 115-mile-an-hour winds before too much longer. That was the intensity at the 5 p.m. advisory. Because of that left-hand turn and time is starting to shorten, hurricane warnings now in effect for northwestern Bahamas, except for Andros Island that's under hurricane watch. The warning includes Freeport and Nassau there on New Providence Island. And we don't have hurricane watches for the east coast of Florida yet. That could happen either later tonight or tomorrow morning. It's because of that slowdown in the forward speed that buys us a little more time to decide where that watch will go. That'll be what the Hurricane Center and the Weather Service will have to think through. Here is the NOAA Hurricane Hunter plane getting closer and closer, getting into Dorian. Within the hour, we should have new data from them. Took off from Lakeland, Florida a little while ago, and we should have Air Force reconnaissance in there later tonight as well. They're going to find an impressive-looking hurricane. You can see the eye showing up even on the water vapor imagery, as well as that very well-defined upper-level outflow. On the visible imagery, wow, what a sight. It is terribly impressive, especially with that stadium effect with the sun going down here on the last few images of the day.
Yeah.
Watch over the last few hours, just this afternoon, evening, how much better defined that has become. That is a sign of continued strengthening. It could reach Category 5, and it could have been down, could come back down below 5 or 4 later. But the Hurricane Center is generally painting a picture of intensification, and whatever the details of the intensity, we're expecting a major hurricane, Category 3 or stronger, to be near or over the east coast of Florida by early next week. But before that happens, by Sunday night or Monday morning, Mike, that's when tropical storm force winds could arrive. Got to be done getting ready by then.
That is a certainty. We know that. To get ready before it actually hits. Let's take a live to the Bahamas right now. That's a live look at Nassau for you right now. And you can see just a few maybe showery storm clouds out there. But the real show will begin later this weekend. And joining us now from the Bahamas Weather Service is Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey, thanks for your time this evening. I've got to imagine now the hurricane winds that have gone into effect, and knowing that this could be a very slow-moving storm, that is not a good scenario for the Bahamas.
Not at all, because once that storm slows down, there will be continued growth in that hurricane as it approaches our islands.
Jeffrey, what kinds of preparations or even evacuations can be done on a place like Grand Bahama and Freeport? Is everybody going to have to shelter in place, or are any of the islands being evacuated in any way?
Well, there are storm shelters in place on the mainland islands, particularly Grand Bahama and Abaco. And evacuation plans are in place for persons who live on actually small keys, just out, you have the Abaco keys, places like Grand Key, Elbow Key, and all those around the Abacos, and Sweetens Key, and others. So we're going to be looking at evacuating persons off those keys. Those who, the evacuation order has been sent out already from the Office of the Prime Minister to evacuate persons from those islands and bring them into the mainland, Abaco or Grand Bahama, and where hurricane shelters have already been set up and are now finalizing plans for those shelters for those people. persons who would like to there will also be flights available for persons who would want to leave those islands and come further south, move the islands further south in the chain, such as maybe even New Providence and further south as far south as Eleuthera. So all of those plans are already in place, and we expect to see some mass evacuation starting tomorrow.
All right. Well, Jeffrey Simmons from the Bahamas joining us this evening. Jeffrey, thank you so much for that. Coming up here on Weather Underground, a lot of you may be trying to find an effective way to combat water. When we come back, a proper way to sandbag.
Yes, I'm doing it all. The water, the exercise, the fiber. Month after month, and I still have belly pain and recurring constipation. So I asked my doctor what else I could do, and I said yes to Linzess.
Linzess treats adults with IBS with constipation or chronic constipation. Linzess is not a laxative. It works differently. It helps relieve belly pain and lets you have more frequent and complete bowel movements. Do not give Linzess to children less than 6, and it should not be given to children 6 to less than 18. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling.
I'm still doing it all. The water, the exercise, the fiber. And I said yes to Linzess for help with belly pain and recurring constipation. Ask your doctor.
What's going on? It's a 3 p.m. slump.
Shit out of P3.
Oh, yeah.
Need energy? Get P3 with a mix of meat, cheese, and nuts.
When tasting olives, roasted pine nuts, this red pepper.
That's spicy stuff. Fresh flavor, feel-good food. Sabra hummus.
I just had Sabra hummus and now I feel it.
You're a big deal to us, so we've got big deals for you. Build up your fall wardrobe during the big deal event at Men's Warehouse this Labor Day. Suits start at $179.99. Dress and woven shirts are 3 for $99.99, plus take an extra 40% off select clearance items. Only at Men's Warehouse.
My insurance rates are probably going to double.
But Dad, you've got...
Allstate. With accident forgiveness, they guarantee your rates won't go up just because of an accident.
Smart kid.
Indeed. Are you in good hands?
What's better than one night of Olive Garden? How about 2? All new $5 take-home entrees. Enjoy any meal here. Then take home an all-time favorite like fettuccine Alfredo for just $5 more. Hurry in for $5 take-home entrees. Only at Olive Garden.
Sleep this amazing? That's a ZzzQuil Pure Z Sleep. Our liquid has a unique botanical blend, while an optimal melatonin level means no next-day grogginess. ZzzQuil Pure Z's, naturally superior sleep.
So Dish gives you NFL Red Zone, no extra charge. That's every touchdown, every game, Sunday afternoons. Because if you miss all that action, you miss all this action.
Dish, tuned in to you.
Lowe's knows more daylight is more time to do your summer projects right. We do summer right too, with everyday deals on all you need. So what you want to do gets done how you want it.
Now get 5 bags of premium mulch for $10. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Thanks for staying with us as we track Hurricane Dorian for you this evening. Category 3 hurricane with 115-mile-per-hour winds. Let's take you live to Melbourne, Florida tonight. Along the East Coast, meteorologist Mike Seidel is there. Mike, probably for people that live in this area or people that may be coming to that area, one thing they're concerned about is just up the road from you, Port Canaveral, on their cruise ship.
Yeah, we've seen the cruise ships leave today. In fact, we've got one now heading south. They're going to get well south so they don't have to deal with Dorian. But we talked to one gentleman who had a friend get on a cruise ship just a few hours ago. And as a result of the storm, they're rerouting the ship. So instead of being a 4-day cruise, it's going to be a 6-day cruise. So they're planning now to come back on Thursday versus next Tuesday. Then you got to wonder what kind of impact do we have on Port Canaveral, and the folks that were coming back Tuesday and flying out on Tuesday, they've got to change their flights. So maybe it's not such a great thing after all that they're getting 2 free nights, but they'll make the best of it. The water is warm, 84, 85 degrees, perfect breeding ground for Dorian out there in the Atlantic, moving towards the Bahamas. So as a result of that and low wind shear, we expect that Dorian will continue to ramp up. It's already a major hurricane, forecast officially by the Hurricane Center to be a Cat 4. A lot of nervous people. The suspense continues to build here on the Space Coast of Florida. They're watching and waiting every model run like we are, and we've seen folks already boarding up. But again, EOC will ramp up on Sunday here in Brevard County. Schools already closed next Tuesday, so the wait continues and preparations underway. They're having a lot of meetings. They're well prepared for what could come this way. It could be certainly worse than Matthew, which was supposed to be a big hit, but fortunately at the last minute stayed just far enough offshore that the eye will just graze these beaches here in Melbourne.
All right, Mike Sedell for us in Melbourne this evening. Mike, thank you so much for that. Well, we know that when it comes to producing hurricane damage, especially from wind and rain, protecting your home definitely key.
Yeah, and I went to the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety to show you how to protect your home. And today, we're focusing on the construction of your home and arming your roof for a hurricane with IBHS Chief Engineer Ann Cope. And I've seen many a roof with shingles. I've seen many others with tile.
Do well. It's less about what you're putting on your roof than how well is it fastened down and how prepared are you to keep the water out if it flies off.
So whether I have tile or shingles, all of the hidden protections need to be the same, right?
Absolutely. You got to make sure that you're ready for the water, regardless of what you have on your roof. The other thing that might be a slight difference between the two is if this flies off, you got one piece of shingle flying around. If that S-tile that you're holding flies off, that's a much larger projectile.
Now, I am getting tired the longer I hold this.
Right.
This does seem like a much more damaging or deadly projectile if it flies free.
It could be. Now, if it's well fastened, then hopefully it's not going to fly off. But if it does, that can cause some damage.
Now, clearly, if the first shingle goes, you can kind of have that domino effect that the whole thing peels away. I wonder if tiles have the same kind of effect. If the first one goes, or the wind load is the greatest, could that be a cascading effect for tiles as well?
The shingles are more of an interlocking system because they're attached to each other. You can tell that by the sealant that holds them all together. Tiles are going to be laid over top of each other, but those two nail holes down there that you see, and the other one on the top surface, that's what's holding that tile down there. And so you need your nail spacing to make sure that your tile's held on.
So bottom line is, whether it's tile or shingle or something else, it needs to be fastened to the roof securely, and what is underneath is really the key to keeping the water out.
It really is.
And I've often wondered, Dr. Knapp, that if there is an advantage, if something's, and take out the wind and the rain aspect, if something's hitting your home, is there an advantage to having one over the other, shingle or tile?
My own preference, I'd rather have the tiles just because they're a little bit thicker and more substantial. But if a tree falls onto your home, trees are so heavy, and in a hurricane, things are getting thrown at such great speed. I don't think it necessarily matters what kind of protection you have on. Now, one thing about tiles, and I've seen this happen in past. Home. So whatever you can do to see if those tiles are fastened well, the better off we're all going to be.
And that may not matter along the gutter edge like it does with shingles. Any portion of that tile roof could come up because of how they're attached to each other.
Yeah, and in terms of keeping the water out of the home, it doesn't necessarily matter if you have tile or shingles. What matters is, do you have the underlayment and the tape on the seams between the pieces of plywood that are the base of your roof? It's the layers of protection that matter. So next time you're redoing your roof, watch how they do it. And if you've already roofed, get that foam on the underneath side to take the water out.
And if you're thinking about just checking your roof right now, just
check
you
the
can use a
shingles.
visual inspection, check those shingles for sure. Hey, we come back here on Weather Underground. Sandbagging. It can significantly reduce flooding in and around your home, but you've got to do it the right way. When we come back, we're actually going to demonstrate the correct way to fill a sandbag and lay a sandbag down, and a little pro tip if you're actually going to your local municipality to get sand. That's when we come back.
Friday night pizza forecast brought to you by Domino's. Order online at Domino's.com.
Now get 50% off all Domino's when you order online. 50% off sausage pizzas, handmade pan pizzas, even barbecue banana pepper pizzas. If you're into that, this week only get 50% off the menu price of 34 million pizza combinations at Domino's.com.
Great riches will find you when Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
Wow, thanks, Zoltar. How can I ever repay you?
Maybe you could free Zoltar?
Oh.
Thanks, lady. Taxi! Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty. This Labor Day, save up to 50% on over 300 floors at Lumber Liquidators Labor Day flooring sale. Get waterproof flooring up to 50% off, or exclusive Bellawood hardwood up to 40% off, plus special financing. The Labor Day sale is going on now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring Company.
Bear presents A Job Well Done. Painting be done and stay done. Bear, ranked #1 in customer satisfaction with interior paints. Right now, get incredible savings on Bear, exclusively at the Home Depot.
To be their best, kids need good nutrition and practice. Lots of practice. Get them started right with Carnation Breakfast Essentials. It has protein plus vitamins and minerals. Let's be their best. Carnation Breakfast Essentials.
The Joseph A. Bank Labor Day sale. Save up to 60% off everything. All suits on sale starting at $199. Dress and sports shirts for $29, plus an extra 50% off clearance. The Labor Day sale, only at Joseph A. Bank.
Imagine me and you and me, so happy together. I can't say me loving nobody like you for all my life.
As a real estate agent, I've learned it's excess moisture that causes musty odors. Pro tip, use Damp Rid.
New Damp Rid drop-in tabs attract and trap excess moisture out of the air, eliminating musty odors.
Works every time.
Get rid of dampness.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Great tasting Ensure with 9 grams of protein and 26 vitamins and minerals. Ensure for strength and energy.
We got one of those new purple mattresses, and it is amazing. You have to try it.
Oh, this doesn't feel like memory foam. No, this feels amazing.
Right?
What is it?
Actually, it's called Purple, and it's a completely unique comfort technology, meticulously designed to cradle and support the human body.
Cool.
Now through September 9th, get free sheets and 2 free Purple pillows with mattress purchase at purple.com/TV.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance, but she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
This is epic!
You're watching America's most trusted TV news network,
Got a severe weather threat.
We are live on the ground right now. It's coming down.
the Weather Channel.
Thanks for staying with us here for our continuing coverage of Hurricane Dorian. Just into the Weather Channel, remarks from the president on Hurricane Dorian before he took off for Camp David for the holiday weekend.
I'll be coming back on Sunday morning where I'm going directly to FEMA. And I think Senator Rubio and Senator Scott and I don't think the governor should be there. I think he wants to be in Florida. Governor DeSantis. He's doing a fantastic job, by the way. Doing a fantastic job. Well, I haven't even thought about it until the question was just broached a little while ago. Yeah, it would look like Mar-a-Lago is dead center. But, look, Mar-a-Lago can handle itself. That's a very powerful place. The thing I'm worried about is the state of Florida. Because this hurricane is looking like this could be a record-setting hurricane. Now, maybe things change. We're hoping for one element that might happen, and that's that it makes a right turn. It goes up north just prior to or equal to hitting shore. That would be great. But that's a pretty small percentage at this point.
And also taking you live now to Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis speaking now.
Well, good evening. I've spent the day traveling around the state. We were briefed by the Palm Beach County Emergency Operations Leadership, Florida Power and Light, looking at their command center, because obviously getting the power back on is going to be very important. Then also went to Central Florida and met with the folks in Orange County. This hurricane, as you know, has been upgraded now to a Category 3. I think most models forecast it to be a very intense storm, most likely a Category 4. You need to be prepared. We're watching these models, and there have been some changes this afternoon with the National Hurricane Center, but really it's still too soon to know precisely where this will strike Florida, and so you need to be ready and take the time to take the precautions necessary to protect yourself and your family. Now, we've been working closely with the local officials, particularly on the east coast of Florida, in the counties that are most likely to be facing the brunt of this storm. Counties like Palm Beach and Martin and Brevard, and regarding their plans for evacuation. And they will be making announcements regarding the execution of those plans tomorrow. And we've appreciated working collaboratively with them. Because I think it's important that this is a team effort, and that we're working constructively with not only our local partners but with our federal partners. If you are ordered, if you are in an evacuation zone and there's a mandatory evacuation order issued, please heed that call. You're looking at a storm that could produce life-threatening storm surge and major hurricane force winds. There is a danger to your life if you remain in these evacuation zones. So please heed the call. I want to thank some of our neighboring states and other states throughout the country, businesses in other states and individuals who've offered their support. Consumers Energy, which is a Michigan-based company, they're sending crews down to Florida over the weekend in preparation for the hurricane. Ohio Task Force 1 has sent 85 members to conduct searches, including canine search, provide rescue and medical duties, and to help fulfill logistics needs. Encore, which is the largest transmission and distribution electric utility in Texas, has pre-positioned 100 employees and contractors in Florida for assistance with the power and the utilities. New York is sending firefighters to help. Nebraska Public Power District announced Thursday that it's dispatching crews to help Florida's recovery.
And you are watching Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida, live press conference there. We, of course, if he brings us anything of note, we'll pass it along to you. In the meantime, I want to bring in our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, talk a lot more here about Dorian. One thing that a lot of us get into a bad habit of is we live and die by each model run. They can change. The thing that we need to look for is consistency or multiple runs at a time, not just one.
Yeah, one thing I learned as an operational forecaster at the Hurricane Center is if you shift your track all the way over to one particular model run, what if those models shift all the way back and you have confuse the issue unnecessarily. So we look for consistent trends. The models can shift back and forth, but the official forecast is going to be as consistent as it can be. And with all of the things that we're showing you, we're continuing to take into account the uncertainty in track, intensity, and size. And given all that, it is nearly certain that many of you in the eastern part of the Florida Peninsula will get sustained winds of tropical storm force at some point in the next 5 days. And with chances of hurricane force winds, if you're in that area from about Palm Beach up to Melbourne, there's a greater chance that you will get hurricane force winds than you won't, given everything that we know about what could happen. And other parts of the peninsula, greater than a 1 out of 3 shot at any specific location. So we have to be planning for sheltering from strong winds. So let's go over a couple things. And in Florida, it gets very, very complicated. You obviously want to cover your windows with shutters or plywood. Ideally, shutters. Don't tape the windows. That could be more dangerous, and you'd be scraping tape off the window afterward. You want to be thinking about sheltering like you would for a tornado. A lot of mobile homes in Florida. Don't stay in a mobile home, even in tropical storm conditions. Don't stay in the upper floors of a high-rise. Mike, if you go up 20, 25 stories in a high-rise, then you are buying yourself another category stronger. Do you want a Cat 5 when at the ground it's Cat 4? No chance.
Thank you. When we come back, our team coverage continues right here on the Weather Channel.
You're a big deal to us, so we've got big deals for you. Build up your fall wardrobe during the Big Deal event at Men's Warehouse this Labor Day. Suits start at $179.99. Dress and woven shirts are 3 for $99.99, plus take an extra 40% off select clearance items. Only at Men's Warehouse.
Take the floor somewhere unexpected. Everything you need is at your fingertips and at the Home Depot. On-trend styles with innovations to make it pet-proof. Make it life-proof. Make it waterproof. Make it beautiful. And the Home Depot has everything you need to make it yours. Today is the day for doing it, with even lower prices right now on vinyl plank, laminate, and tile, only from the Home Depot.
This is Mia. This is Mia's pulse. With pressure rising and racing. This is also Mia's pulse that her doctor keeps in check, so she can find balance. This is Mia's pulse, and now it's more stable than ever. This is what Medicare from Blue Cross Blue Shield does for Mia. And with over 80 years of healthcare expertise, imagine what we can do for you. This is the benefit of Blue.
Here's your Buick, sir. Actually, that's my Buick.
Your Buick doesn't have a roof rack. This is my Buick. How are we going to fit in your mom's Buick?
Easy.
I like that new Buick.
Me too.
I was actually talking about that Buick.
I knew that.
Did you?
Buick's fresh new lineup is full of surprises. It's Labor Day weekend. Discover the new Buick lineup. Current eligible non-GM owners and lessees get 20% below MSRP on most 2019 Buick Encore models.
Well, it finally happened, Zachary. Somebody burned down my she shed.
Nobody burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Well, my she shed's on fire.
The she shed was struck by lightning.
Zachary, is my she shed covered by State Farm?
Your she shed's covered, Cheryl.
You hear that, Victor? I'm getting a new she shed.
She shear?
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful news.
Home insurance trusted by more people than any other. State Farm.
Feel the clarity of non-drowsy children's Claritin allergy relief, the #1 pediatrician recommended non-drowsy brand. Because to a kid, a grassy hill is irresistible. Children's Claritin. Feel the clarity and live Claritin clear.
My Beneful Superfood Blend has me feeling super healthy with salmon, cranberries. Oh, but we are not done yet. Here comes Superfood Wet with beef, salmon, and pumpkin. It's like a superfood sundae on a Monday.
Beneful Superfood Blend dry and wet recipes.
Chicken Alfredo has always been a forbidden love, so I created my new line of Oh That's Good frozen skillet with a twist. We've swapped some of the cream in the sauce for pureed cauliflower, but it's so delicious you'd never know. Oh, that's good.
Coming up on Weather Underground, Hurricane Dorian. It's a major hurricane and is expected to get even stronger, and its incredible power zeroing in on the Bahamas. The dangerous threats Dorian poses as it approaches the southeast. The danger increasing from Florida to the Carolinas, and the time to prepare is now for what could be a marathon event. Tonight, team coverage from Florida. And hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knabb examining the suspense still surrounding Dorian as forecast models struggle to figure out where it will go. He's going to break down how Dorian resembles past hurricanes like Matthew, Francis, and even Katrina. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us on Weather Underground, our continuing coverage of Dorian. I'm meteorologist Mike Bettis. We know you have a lot of questions about this hurricane, rightfully so. Send us your questions. Include this hashtag, Hurricane Questions. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, you can do it in either location. We're going to answer your questions throughout the show tonight. Live to the Bahamas we go. The next landmass likely to be hit by Hurricane Dorian. You can see right now things are pretty calm for us, but it is creeping toward the Bahamas. Hurricane warnings are in effect right now for the northern Bahamas. Hurricane watches are in effect as well. Let's bring in our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb. We're going to get continuous flights into this, and hopefully that helps us. We thought yesterday getting more information into the models was going to help. I'm not sure it did. Did it confuse us more? I don't know, because the models have fluctuated today, and so now we're like, okay, which way is it going?
Yeah, and you have to realize here that we're trying to forecast relative to the northern portions of Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas out 5, 6, 7, 8 days. That's how long it's going to take for this entire event to play out. But as Mike says, even out 3 and 4 days, the uncertainties are high enough that we don't even know for sure if the center of Dorian will make landfall in Florida, but we know the threat is high and the chances are high that we're going to have life-threatening, long-duration winds, storm surge, heavy rainfall, and inland flooding. Coastal and inland threat here. And we are also highly confident that the winds are going to come up from this 115 miles an hour Category 3. We'll find out pretty soon from this NOAA Hurricane Hunter plane that's about to go through the center of Dorian. So in a few minutes, I should be able to update you on what they find. I suspect that the pressure has gone down a little more and that the winds have come up a little more. Sometimes the pressure leads the wind in terms of the pressure goes down and then later the winds come up. But I think at least the pressure's coming down when you look at this satellite image. Wow, it is scary. Let's zoom in a little bit more. The last few images of the day, you can see that stadium effect really taking shape as the last few images of the day cast that shadow into the eastern eye wall. It's really getting its act together, and it looks to be on a continued strengthening trend. How high could it go? It could wake. I mean, we could wake up to a Category 5 tomorrow. It's within the realm of possibility. We're thinking at least Cat 4, as the Hurricane Center is forecasting, all the way up until it gets near or over the east coast of Florida. See that 140 miles an hour all the way into Tuesday when it's forecast to be right on the coast. If you take that exact forecast as gospel, which even the forecasters at the Hurricane Center would say, don't do that. It is possible that it turns before making landfall in Florida, but a close pass could bring hurricane conditions and life-threatening wind and water to the coast and inland, even if the center stays offshore. It could also cross into the Gulf of Mexico. Don't tune out up in the Florida Panhandle. It could also cross many parts of the state of Florida on its way to probably having some impact in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina along the way. Bahamas, you got a hurricane warning up, and the conditions could go downhill late tomorrow night or early Sunday. But then late Sunday into early Monday is when we could see the tropical storm conditions first arrive on the east coast of Florida. And that's why later tonight or early tomorrow morning, 48 hours in advance of that, is when the hurricane watch could go up for some portion of the east coast of Florida. But the reason we don't want anybody to take one particular model forecast or the exact track or whatever part of the cone you like to make your decision is to realize that when you look at the European model ensembles, a lot of them come across Florida. So there's a significant possibility this comes ashore as a slow-moving major hurricane. That's the worst kind of hurricane because that would lengthen the duration of all the hazards and increase how life-threatening this is. And it's still critical between now and when the tropical storm force winds arrive that you heed any evacuation instructions. You got to get everybody out before that time. So over the weekend, you might be told to evacuate. Find out right now if you live in an evacuation zone. And if you don't, Mike, be someone's inland evacuation destination.
And be prepared to go. So when the evacuation order is issued, you don't then make all your preparations, board up your home, go shopping, gas up your car, all those things. Have that done already.
Yeah, figure out today where you go and how you get there. You don't want to be figuring out that plan at the last minute.
Thank you. Here's what we know right now on Hurricane Dorian. A hurricane warning has been issued for the Northwest Bahamas. Daytona Beach International Airport is going to close after the last flight on Sunday night. And according to Gas Buddy, this is an astounding number here, 60% of Miami gas stations are now out of fuel. There is time that they'll get tankers back in there and refill some of these gas stations, but you really may have to hunt and peck to find some gas in South Florida. All right, for a lot of you, you're watching the storm, you're seeing how the way it's moving. We're expecting this really sharp left-hand turn, and then, a couple days from now, who knows exactly. The things that steer this are known, but complex.
Yes, and even with the latest technology and advanced models, we don't know exactly where the center of Dorian is going to go relative to the east coast of Florida. We know it's going to be very close, and the threat is high. But let's compare a couple of individual model runs, and then I'll show you a lot more possibilities and explain why this model is doing it. The GFS model, over the next couple of days, by Sunday evening, has it probably somewhere near over the northwestern Bahamas because of that high-pressure ridge to the north, steering it off to the west. Now, let's go one day forward. You see how little it moves in one entire day because that ridge is easing off to the east, and now we just have a narrow ridge, a weakness in between strong ridging on either side. That causes the steering currents to collapse for perhaps 2 or 3 days. That's Tuesday, and not until Wednesday does this model have it clearing Florida.
In that situation where there's a bit of a squeeze play between those ridges, it just kind of hangs out, in essence. It doesn't go much in any direction.
No, it could stall, meander, loop. It could be very, very unsettling how long you're going to have to endure tropical storm or even hurricane conditions. So it takes till Thursday for the GFS to get that up into the area of Georgia. But here is what the European ensembles are doing. The exact European model run goes slow, and then right along here. But that's just one of the solutions. It is entirely possible that the ridging is strong enough to take it across Florida into the Gulf. But also, Mike, these tracks are 7 days long. Some of them are not out of the southeast U.S. a week from now. Some of them meander and loop around in there.
Has that thing been charging
I don't
since
want
last
anybody
night?
to take what they saw in the European model today, for example, and say, it's going to miss Florida. I trust the European model, and I can take that to the bank. I'm not worried. The rumors are already getting out there like that, and we've got to dispel that and realize that there is a high risk of a slow-moving major hurricane making landfall or coming close enough to the Florida coast to cause life-threatening storm surge and winds at the coast, winds and inland flooding well inland, and that's just for Florida, for starters.
For folks at home that are very in tune with the weather and are familiar with the European model, they may know that it is one of the best performing models and that it is done better in forecast track than others. And so maybe today that gave them a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, but let's look at that particular forecast. I can point out a couple things to pour a little water on that. Northwest Bahamas Sunday night, like the GFS, barely moving into Monday night. So you could be having a long period of tropical storm force winds that entire time on the southeast coast of Florida, even with the center just offshore. It could continue into Tuesday night. And you remember how close Matthew came to the coast? If this forecast is exactly right, at a minimum, you've got a repeat of Matthew, but if it goes just a little bit farther to the left, you are raking the entire east coast of Florida with perhaps a Category 4 hurricane. That is not good news when I look at that track.
And you think about, listen, a little variation there of 25, 50 miles can make a difference, too.
I assure you, as smart as the European model is, it's not so smart that it can tell the difference between just a few miles 4 and 5 days from now. No way.
Dr. Knapp, thank you. One of the places we believe that could have some effects is Melbourne, Florida, along the state's east coast there. Mike Seidel is there tonight. Mike, the weather for now is fine. We've got some time, but before you know it, we're going to have some effects from Dorian.
Yeah, we've got a lot of time right now to get prepared. We've seen some businesses board up today. The locals, watching and waiting. A lot of suspense, as you can imagine, continues to build here. One thing that we'll see first here in the Atlantic is the wave action, what we call swell. Dorian is churning up the ocean miles away, and those waves propagate in, we call swell. And we'll see these wave heights gradually ramping up tomorrow. And the beach erosion, that is going to be a big issue here. Even if it just stays right off the coast, it's a slow mover. It's just going to grind away at these beaches, and that's not good. There's not a lot of beach here between here, although they have a nice dune line. We were just hearing from Mike Bettis about Gas Buddy saying 60% of gas stations in Miami-Dade are without gas. Let's bring in Lieutenant Channing Taylor with the Florida Highway Patrol, and your guys are working hard to get those tankers to where they need to be.
Absolutely. We've told all our troopers starting tomorrow the days off are canceled. We went to 12-hour shifts. We're stationing Highway Patrol troopers at the turnpike rest areas. They're providing security as well as fuel escorts so we can get tankers up and down the interstate and up and down the turnpike to deliver fuel to the gas stations.
And what about the turnpike 95, 75 as far as getting rid of anything that could block people trying to get north and out of Florida?
We started that several days ago. We're making sure all the abandoned vehicles are promptly towed off, checking for debris, anything that would hamper anybody trying to evacuate or travel out of the area.
What's the status of tolls at this point on the turnpike?
Right now, the tolls are still effective. They're discussing the suspension of tolls. During storms like this, typically they suspend the tolls at certain periods. Again, that's a decision that'll be made at a later date.
And a couple words that we throw around contraflow. We've seen that in Texas. What do you guys here in Florida, you guys and gals, discuss as far as if it's necessary turning traffic around or not turning it around?
We do have a contraflow plan. Again, it's very labor intensive. We will use it as a last resort. We do have a plan available. We have something called an ESU, which is an emergency shoulder usage that we have in place. We're actually talking about utilizing that in the next day or two, which basically allows traffic to use the emergency shoulder in the travel lane. That's why we went and we cleared a lot of the debris so that we'd be able to utilize that.
And it is a Labor Day weekend, so Florida highways are busy anyway. Have you noticed, checking around the state, any uptick on traffic northbound out of Florida towards Georgia and points north and west?
Yes, traffic has picked up significantly. I know that the lines at the gas stations and the ramps have picked up significantly. We're getting a lot more calls of impatient drivers on the roadway. We're asking people to be patient, to be courteous, not engaging in any risky driving behavior, because if they get into a collision or an incident, that just prolongs the amount of time it takes them to evacuate.
Okay, Lieutenant Channing Taylor, thanks for your update. You guys will be working hard. And I think the best thing we take away from this interview is that you're doing the best that you can to get these fuel tankers to their locations and get gas back in the tanks.
Absolutely. Pre-storm and post-storm, we're going to do everything they can to restore everything back to normal, to make sure that fuel's available and that the roads remain open or become open as soon as possible after the storm.
Okay, let's hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Mike Bettis, that's the status here. We just keep watching and waiting. We've got many, many days, several days before we have to deal with the more direct impacts. We're talking later Monday and certainly Tuesday here on the Space Coast. NBC's Jay Gray is just up the coast at Cocoa Beach. Jay, you've been talking to folks out on the beach. We know this is the off-season during the week, but Labor Day weekend, typically thousands come into these beaches, but that's not the case this weekend.
No, Mike, you're absolutely right. In fact, let's take a first-hand look at the beach right now. A few people lingering here. We've seen some throughout the day, but exactly nothing like you would see on a normal Friday leading into the Labor Day weekend. This area usually packed with visitors. Just not the case at this point. You can see, though, it's a calm evening here. First responders, officials urging residents here and across the state really take advantage of these conditions right now. Get prepared. Make sure you're ready for when this storm begins to move in. We've seen that at lines at gas stations, lines as well at grocery stores and home improvement stores, people getting the supplies they will need. Most saying that they're getting stocked up with food, water, and medicine to last at least a week. A lot of people think they'll be without power or perhaps be trapped by floodwaters for at least that long once this storm does move in. But just like everybody's been saying, Mike, this is something where they've just got to wait now and watch as they prepare. And that may be one of the toughest things to do. Yeah, patience is not necessarily something that we have. Jay, thank you so much for the report. Jay, great for us this evening in Cocoa Beach. I want to take you now to Wilmington, North Carolina. And I know that we have focused a lot on Florida, rightfully so, but for those of you that might be watching here in a place like Wilmington, it is not out of the realm of possibility that you could take a direct hit. That's still on the table. And one thing that we certainly need to address is the slow motion and the track and how it could produce, Dr. Knapp, some very significant rain.
Yeah, when I look at the European ensembles, there's lots of things you can get out of looking at this graphic. That's why we show it a lot. But one of the things you can get out of this is that over the next 7 days, some of these tracks meander, loop, stall, and end at various places along the way. Can you imagine a hurricane here and a week from now? It's still not gone from somewhere in here. And in the meantime, after the next couple of days, a pretty steady forward motion, it slows down and spends most of a week, if not more, over the southeast U.S. That spells, like Florence last year, a recipe for inland flood disaster.
You take a look at these 4 states that we've highlighted here. These are their tropical cyclone rainfall records. Some of these numbers are pretty high. You look at 45 inches of the record rainfall in Florida.
Yeah, that was in Yankeetown. That's down in here. That was from a cyclone decades ago. Now, could we get 45 inches? You know, if there's any scenario where you could make a run at that kind of record, it is a slow-moving major hurricane. It's possible. But even if you don't break the record, that's the kind of significant event we're looking at. Alberto in Georgia in 1994, that was deadly. Double-digit fatalities due to inland flood from what was left of a tropical cyclone. We're talking about a major hurricane. And then it's been just the last couple years where we've had terrible events in the Carolinas, including Florence. Can you imagine if they have to do it for the third time in 4 years? I sure hope not.
It'd be enough to make me move, I think. When we come back, clock winding down, what you need to be doing right now in preparation of a landfall.
New Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline has 4 levels of defense against gunk, wear, corrosion, and friction. And that helps keep your engine running like new. It's fueled with up.
Try Drive Up at Target, delivered to your car door so you can do more. More refill. More recharge. More relax. Target run and done.
This is Miguel.
Hola.
This is Miguel's mandolin business he built himself. This is Miguel's son.
Sorry.
Miguel wants to pass on his business to his son, but he doesn't know how.
Music I could read. Legal? Not so much.
So he turned to his friends at LegalZoom. We helped him set up the right estate plan so his son will inherit his business, so Miguel can get back to making music.
Sings like an angel, doesn't she?
This is Miguel's mandolin shop, and this is where life meets legal.
You know curb appeal when you see it. And with the Home Depot and the best brands around, you can start seeing it. Today is the day for doing with the best brands in paint. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
Bonjour. Sorry, won't happen again.
On an endless road.
Come on, let's go home.
After 10 years, we've covered a lot of miles. Good thing I got a Subaru.
Love is out there. Find it in a Subaru Crosstrek.
Get 0% during the Subaru A Lot to Love event.
Now get 50% off all Domino's pizzas when you order online. 50% off sausage pizzas, handmade pan pizzas, even barbecue banana pepper pizzas. If you're into that, this week only get 50% off the menu price of 34 million pizza combinations at Domino's.com.
Now you can watch your favorite bats.
I'm Duke. And you are?
And they come with 2 all-new mini movies. Own it on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital.
Teeth sensitivity is so common. Drinking or sipping the hot and cold water, it feels like, somebody's poking directly on the nerve. I recommend Sensitive. It goes inside the tooth and calms the nerve. My patients come back to me and say, doc, it really works.
Frank Thomas, a.k.a. the Big Hurt, used to keep pretty busy on the baseball field. But now, he's busier than ever.
After I turned 40, it wasn't easy to keep up. Everything changed. My energy, my drive. Then I found Nugenix Total T.
New Nugenix Total T is our most powerful man-boosting formula ever because it boosts your free testosterone and your total testosterone. To get your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, text SEEK to 231-231.
Nugenix helped me feel better. I feel stronger. I have more energy. I have the energy and stamina and strength. It makes me feel awesome.
From the brand that brought you GNC's #1 vitality product, new Nugenix Total T helps provide even more energy, performance, testosterone. Bottle of Nugenix Total T. That's SEEK. So 231-231.
This is epic.
You're watching America's most trusted TV news network.
We got a severe weather threat here live on the ground right now. It's coming down.
The Weather Channel.
South Florida, Central Florida, North Florida. Still to be determined. But let's talk a little bit more about what you need to do in reference.
And then I want to talk to the people who live in high rises in storm surge evacuation zones who think they can stay there because they can get above the water. That's not a good idea. Is going to produce tremendously life-threatening and damaging wind and storm surge in coastal areas, and those winds are going to penetrate well. Winds have been going up, and they are greater than 50-50 shot here.
Also,
I look at
and look at this. That also includes.
Floors of a high rise in a hurricane. Two reasons. What if you're in a high rise that's on the beach and you're in a storm surge evacuation zone and this looks like in South Florida? It is such a large, continuously urbanized area. It is just too dangerous to be. And Bill, let's talk about sheltering options in different parts of your county. And what about what I was just talking about having to do with high rises? What do you want to?
Vertically evacuate. In other words, go down to a lower floor, as you were just talking a little bit about. That lessens some of the damage and go. In mobile homes and the like, we really strongly encourage them to evacuate. And then finally, we have two coasts, as you well, Dr. Nab. We have the Atlantic coast, and then over on the other side of our county, we have the lake, Lake Okeechobee, which also has some surge.
Those instructions and not have this false sense of security getting up in a high rise or staying in a mobile home is a bad idea, like you said.
And the key thing here, if you're a high rise condo that you
this program brought to you by AARP. Real possibilities.
Ethel Percy Andress didn't look like a fighter, but her tireless efforts to speak up for people create. To choose between buying food and buying medicine. We were founded to fight for people, and we're not done yet. Join.
Own your look with fewer lines. There's only one Botox cosmetic. It's the only one FDA approved to temporarily make frown lines, feet, and forehead lines look better. The effects of Botox cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a threatening condition. Do not respond to cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow, eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Tell your doctor about your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. So give that just saw a puppy look, and whatever that look is. Look like you with fewer lines. Text now to get your exclusive offer.
Here's your Buick, sir. Actually, that's my Buick.
Your Buick doesn't have a roof rack. This is my Buick.
Buick Encore models. Now get 50% off all Domino's pizzas when you order online. 50% off sausage pizzas, handmade pan pizzas, even barbecue.